Hi, I'm Charles with Anycap. The story begins as our protagonist, Alec, does some fishing. He's approached by a mysterious man who asks him if he would like to learn how to use magic. Their training begins immediately, and after some time, we see that Alec is able to summon fire magic. Using it as a projectile is still a challenge, however, so his teacher, Eldis, instructs him on how to focus. Eldis has him picture what hitting his target would be like, and he also tells him to picture the companions he will have in the future. One day his companions will encounter danger, so Alec will have to use magic to save his precious friends. This works perfectly, as Alec desperately wants to protect the people he cares about, so Eldis tells him to use that while breathing in. Finally, Eldis has him open his eyes to release the attack, and Alec is able to fire off 2 fireballs. Alec couldn't be happier, and his proud teacher praises him. Alex says that today's spell was exceptionally hard to learn because it took most of the day, but Eldis points out that it takes an entire month for a normal person to learn the same spell. Alec is eager to learn another spell, but Eldis doesn't want to overwork him, as it will diminish their training's effectiveness. Eldis has them relax by doing some fishing, but Alex says that fishing sucks, and all he can think about is learning another spell. To temper his young apprentice, Eldis tells Alec that he has a natural talent for being a magician. Even without his guidance, Eldis is sure that Alec will become a top-notch magician. Like the flowing of the water in the river, Eldis wants Alec to leave everything to fate. Of course, this makes Alec wonder why he taught him magic in the first place. Eldis seems hesitant to answer, and he gets bailed out when he catches a fish. Eldis is an excellent teacher of magic, but he's useless when it comes to fishing, so Alec helps him reel it in. The guys have a good laugh after that, and call it a day. First thing next morning, Alec is back at training. Today's magic formula is more difficult than usual, but Eldis assures his student that he can do it. The days would then pass with Alec learning a different spell every single day. It's not all work for the two though, as one day the guys enjoy a magic-induced snowball fight. Unfortunately, the good days don't last forever, as one day Eldis reveals that he's leaving the capital. Alec is heartbroken as it means they won't see each other again, and Eldis is clearly bothered as well. Eldis is never done advising his student, however, so he tells Alec that even if he ever has the chance to become a court magician, he shouldn't do it. Alec doesn't understand why, but what he wants to know most is why Eldis decided to teach him magic in the first place. Eldis struggles with his emotions, but he manages to smile as he explains that it's because Alec's mother did him a favor, that is, when she was alive. Those would prove to be Eldis's final words to his young apprentice, as Alec was left speechless. Many years later, we find a grown-up Alec at the Royal Magic Academy. Of course, he could never forget his great teacher, so he looked him up and found that Eldis graduated as the top student in his class. Eldis became a court magician, but for some reason he was banished. Alec concludes that this is why Eldis was sad so much of the time, so he comes up with a plan. He makes it his goal to change the entire system of the Imperial Court. Alec vows to do whatever he can to repay Eldis's favor to him, and to do that, he decides to become a court magician. Years later, we see that Alec did manage to become a court magician, but he's now being banished by Prince Regulus. Regulus wonders if Alec even knows what his role is supposed to be, so Alec replies that he's simply supposed to assist Regulus by using magic. Regulus is clearly getting at something, as he asks Alec if he did his job properly in the previous battle, and Alec has no answer. Regulus points out that as the brave prince that he is, he always wields his sword on the front line. That's his job. Their tank named John uses his shield to firmly block enemies, and the mage Lenny uses fire magic to repel monsters. That's their job. Alec, on the other hand, can only cast support magic, like defense and enhancement, which Regulus says is not enough. Much more is expected of a court magician, so Regulus wonders if Alec is only one in name. Alec admits that he's only been casting support magic this entire time, but he explains that there's a good reason for that. Regulus doesn't believe him, so he doesn't hear Alec out, and simply tells him to admit that he only specializes in support magic. Regulus calls him pathetic for not admitting how weak he is, and the rest of the team piles on as well. Lenny points out that Alec is always warning about going too far into the dungeon, but she thinks that he should just admit that he's afraid. Alec can't believe what he's hearing from his former party, but Lenny explains that she was just holding her tongue. The king was the one that ordered for Alec to be on the team, but they're at their limit. They aren't willing to hold back any longer, and they're all sick of clearing dungeons with dead weight like Alec in their party. Regulus heard that Alec excelled at the Magic Academy, but it's clear to him now that Alec never managed to do anything without the help of others. Alec pleads for a chance to explain, but Regulus notices that he's carrying a dagger. This infuriates the prince, so he takes Alec's dagger and reminds him that he issued an order saying that commoners are not allowed to carry weapons. Alex understands, but explains that he's sure they will need it on the next floor of the dungeon. Regulus has no interest in listening, however, as he refuses to let anyone act on their own on his team. He says that this is why he was opposed to letting a commoner join his party, and he regrets not fighting against it more. Regulus then rips the court magician's robe off Alec's back and tells him that he's not worthy of it. Regulus is done explaining, so he simply tells Alec that this party doesn't need him. He instructs him to go home, and Alec is left in shock. That night, Alec diligently studies the dungeon, and we see just how efficient his studying is, as he reads multiple books at a time using magic. Alec creates a detailed assessment of all the dangers on the 30th floor, and determines that Regulus's party doesn't have enough magic to go that far. His assessment is based off the strength of the monsters, environmental hazards, and historical failure rates. With their current party composition, Alec doesn't believe that Regulus's party will survive the 30th floor. Alec thinks it's a shame because he did what he could to help, but in the end he couldn't build the trust with the prince that he had hoped for. Just before giving up, however, Alex determines that there's one more thing he can try. There's no chance that Regulus will listen to his warnings, so Alec decides to go to the king instead. Unfortunately, Alec is turned away at the castle door as he has been stripped of his position as court magician. Ordinary people aren't allowed in the castle without permission, but Alec insists as he has an important message. Just then, Lenny appears to remind Alec that he was fired. She points out that he isn't a court magician anymore, and instead he's nothing but a commoner. Lenny has heard plenty of stories about the great things Alec accomplished at the Magic Academy, so she's disappointed to learn that they must be wrong. A rumor even said that Alec set a record for clearing the capital dungeon. The furthest anyone had gotten before was to floor 30, but Alec was supposedly able to blow that away by getting to level 68. Lenny never really believed that one, and now she thinks that she was proven right. Alec chooses to ignore her insults as she leaves because he has something important he wants to give the king. He reminds her that the king ordered for him to join Regulus's party, so that means that the king trusts him. Alex's message is for the benefit of Prince Regulus, and he is certain that the king will listen if he gets the message. Lenny comes back to accept his letter, but she just ends up tearing it to pieces. She's done listening to the commoner, so she tells the guards to get rid of him. Afterwards, Alec thinks about how it's been 4 years since he graduated, and concludes that he has done his best as a court magician. He must apologize to Eldis, however, because in the end, he wasn't able to change the imperial court. Just then, a girl from his past greets him, and Alec says hello to his old friend Yura. It's been 4 years since they last saw each other, but she can still tell that something is bothering him. Alec apologizes for being such a downer, and Yura expresses how much he hates being in the kingdom of Galdana. It's because here, they still believe all the old-fashioned stuff about nobles and commoners, and there's still a lot of discrimination because of it. Yura is sad about what happened to him, but she says that she's also kind of glad, and she reminds him about what she once told him. She vowed to get Alec to join her party one day, so she reveals that that is why she came to the capital. This is her chance, so she asks Alec if he would like to clear dungeons again with his old group. Yura really wants him to join, as she explains that she could really use his help. Alec is stunned because it's a stark contrast from how he was treated in Regulus's party. Alec is a former court magician who was banished from the team for being useless, so he has lost much of his confidence. Luckily for him, Yura doesn't care about any of that. She knows that Alec is more than what he thinks of himself right now, and tells him that she doesn't need anyone other than him. Her kind words really touch him, and Yura reveals that her team decided that they would all come get him one day. She doesn't want to force him in case he has other plans, but her speech has already made a big impact on our hero. He agrees to join them again, and Yura welcomes him back to their A-rank party. Later, Alec has a dream, remembering how Eldis warned him against becoming a court magician. Yura wonders if he's okay, and Alec simply says that his old teacher was right about something. At the castle, Regulus is told that Alec has left the kingdom to become an adventurer, and they mock their old party member. Alec was said to be the greatest student the Magic Academy had ever seen, so Regulus was curious about how amazing he really was. After seeing him in person though, Regulus determined that he was just a coward. Lenny's just glad that they won't be working with a useless commoner anymore. Alec's replacement will be the genius son of a duke. His name is Vogon, and he will be of much more use as he is a proper noble. With the change, Lenny is sure that they will blaze right through the dungeon like no one has before. She declares that the whole world will know Regulus's name, and they all laugh like lunatics. Back with our hero, we see that he has arrived in the dungeon city called Fizel. Yura really likes it here because they don't suffer from the same prejudice problems that the kingdom does, and it has served as their party's base for years. Before they can go to one of the dungeons though, Alec must register as an adventurer. Registration was easy enough, but there's a different problem. In Fizel City, adventurers must have a pass in order to go past the 30th floor of any dungeon. The problem with that is that adventurers can only obtain the pass after being part of a guild for 2 years. Alec obviously doesn't qualify as he just registered, so they will have to wait. They decide to take a break, where Yora explains that their party has reached the 52nd floor of the dungeon that they're working on now. She wants Alec to join them, but there's no way they can wait 2 entire years. Yora decides not to dwell on where they can't go and focuses on where they can. She reminds Alec that no pass is needed for earlier floors of the dungeons, and there should be a good place for them to get warmed up. They are adventurers after all, and they're in Dungeon City, where they have many options. Moments later, we find the two in the midst of battle inside the second floor of a dungeon. Yora uses a boost spell on Alec, and he's able to take out several of the wasp monsters that surrounded them. Suddenly, Yora gets a bit uncomfortable. She intended for this little trip to be a casual warm-up, but something is wrong. She wonders if her eyes are playing tricks on her, as the number of wasps has multiplied drastically, but Alec confirms that they are real. The wasps also seem very agitated, so Alec determines that something must have happened to their nest. Yora creates a shield to draw the attention of the wasps, but Alec tells her not to rush ahead. Yora surprises him though, when she says that she can handle it. Normally these monsters would be no problem for Alec, but she can tell that he's not up to full strength yet. She knows what he's capable of, but something is holding him back, so she tells Alec to leave it to her. It won't be easy for her, but Yora says that helping him while he's down is just what a comrade does. Her words strike Alec to his core, and he reminds himself that he isn't a court magician anymore. Just like he was taught, Alex declares that in order to save his precious comrade, he must use magic. Alex says that he's an adventurer now, so he doesn't have to hold back anymore, and he finally uses an attack spell to take out several wasps. Even more appear, but this time Yora is much more confident, as she has the real Alec by her side now. She creates a barrier for him to do his thing like old times, and Alec uses a spell to rain down thunderbolts from the sky, eliminating every last monster. Yora celebrates, but it's short-lived as a giant madworm emerges from the ground. Alec realizes that this is why the bugs were upset, but there's no time to think. The worm has Yora, but Alec has a plan. He knows just what spell to use, but he doesn't want to hurt his friend, so he reminds Yora that she had the best defensive support magic at the academy. The two have always made a great team, so Yora knows exactly what he's planning, and she reminds him that he had the strongest attack magic at the school. With them on the same page, Alec finally uses the powerful spell. He calls it the Sacrifice Blaze, and he unleashes it upon the beast. Yora shields herself as the monster is engulfed by Alec's flames, and our two heroes emerge victorious. Alec says that he believed in Yora all along, and she's glad to see that Alec is the strongest mage, just like he's always been. We then get a look into the past to see when they were at the academy. Their party was in battle against a ferocious dragon. Things were taking a turn for the worst, as the dragon was able to use 5 elemental attacks, one after the other, and Yora was almost out of strength after having to defend against them all. The beast was about to eliminate them, but Alec arrived just in time to completely eliminate it with just one attack. This was the day that Alec and his party reached level 68 of the Royal Dungeon, confirming that the legendary rumor was true. His party couldn't have been happier, and they vowed to stick together till the end. Back to the present, Alec and Yora celebrate their victory over the giant monster. It's also a welcoming party for Alec, but Yora reveals that she's actually in a bad mood. Alec's last fire spell nearly turned her into a roasted chicken, but Alex points out that he knew she would be okay. Yora uses up all her energy while screaming and yelling, so she eventually passes out on her chair. Alec realizes that she still can't hold her booze, so he covers her up. Just then, a mysterious man appears to compliment Alec on his chivalry. This guy ends up being a jerk, as he mocks our hero for acting like a simp, so Alec just ignores him. This really ticks the guy off, as he thinks Alec has an attitude, so he plans to teach him some etiquette by bashing a liquor bottle over Alec's head. He's impressed, however, as Alec easily blocks his attack by casting a shield spell without even flinching. The guy is pleased when Alec finally acknowledges him, and Alec is shocked when the guy already knows his full name. This guy's name is Levi, and he heard that Alec used to be a court magician. This made him wonder what one of the elite like Alec was doing all the way out in the middle of nowhere, acting as a simple adventurer. Alec is then surprised when Levi gives him a pass so that he can go lower than the 30th floor of the dungeons, but there's just one condition. Levi wants to see Alec's magic first, so Alec wonders who this guy is. Just then, Yora wakes up from her drunken slumber and reveals that Levi is actually the guildmaster. Alec is stunned to have been talking to the guildmaster this whole time, and Levi tells Alec to come with him. Moments later, Levi welcomes Alec to the guild's underground arena. It's mostly used for testing parties that want to rank up, so Alec realizes that Levi wants to test his skills. Levi explains that there's only one rule. Alec simply has to impress him with his magic. Yora points out that they just finished battling a monster, but Alec says it's okay, as he still has some mana left. It's not much, but this is the perfect opportunity for him to catch up to the others in their party, and he isn't going to pass it up. Levi formally introduces himself, and Alec realizes that he has heard his name before. It turns out that Levi is the incredibly powerful mage who used to lead a famous S-rank party. Levi says that was a long time ago, so there's no telling what will come of their battle, and he allows Alec to begin. Alec starts off with a massive thunderbolt attack, but Levi quickly dodges it and counters with a water attack called Torrent. Alec just barely manages to evade it, but he can instantly tell that Levi has the upper hand when it comes to ranged attacks. Alec charges at him, but he stops in his tracks as Levi uses an enchantment spell called Jet Booster. This makes him insanely fast, and even the powerful Alec has a hard time keeping up with his movements. Levi flies around the arena to throw a charged punch, and Alec just barely manages to block it in time. The sheer force still sends him flying into a wall, but Alec is not even close to being done. He compliments Levi on his speed and acknowledges that he was definitely an S-rank adventurer. Alec's first thought is about how to dodge Levi's attacks, but he chuckles as he just now realized something. Alec has been a court magician for so long that he has developed some bad habits. He has been thinking like a court magician for years, which meant only focusing on being a support. Alec is no longer bound by those rules, and he realizes that he doesn't have to hold back anymore. Levi's intrigued by Alec's revelation, so he eagerly tells him to bring it on. Just then, Alec uses his magic blade spell to create an energy sword. Using a shield and a sword as a mage is strange and unheard of, so Levi wonders what Alec is really capable of. Alec charges in like a warrior this time, and Levi's torrent spell is not nearly enough to stop him. Levi has fought countless battles against a vast number of opponents, so he's not intimidated at all, as he tells Alec that his blade will be no match for his enhanced fists. Alec is no fool, so he acknowledges how hard it will be to stop Levi and his incredible speed, but he has a plan. Levi uses his jet booster again, but this time Alec is ready. He predicts where Levi will be going, and sends an attack ahead of time, aiming for the area in front of Levi. Levi's literally stunned as Alec's Thunderbolt spell lands, and he follows up with a forceful strike using his blade. Levi's impressed that Alec was able to best his magic in such a short time, and now he knows why Yora speaks so highly of him. Alec just now realizes that Yora was the reason he was able to get the pass, but there's no time to think. Levi completely changes his demeanor, and he wonders if Alec is having as much fun as he is. He uses a spell called Dragon Eel, and this summons a pair of gauntlets onto his fists. It's Levi's favorite artifact, and he tells Alec that they're fighting for real now. Levi closes the gap again using Jet Boost, and Alec is the one to be shocked this time, as Levi's attack crushes the ground. Levi wonders if Alec is going to surrender now, but Alec calls it a stupid question. Instead, Alec uses his Thunderbolt attack to land a direct hit, but Levi doesn't even move, and it has no effect on him at all. Alec then rushes to shield himself to defend against a direct punch from Levi, and Levi points out that Alec won't be able to pass the test by running away. Levi's gauntlets begin to glow, and Yora is horrified to see that Levi is activating their special ability. It has a healing ability, which means that Levi can brawl out as much as he wants while also healing. The longer the battle drags out, the worse off Alec will be, so Alec determines that he simply won't give Levi the chance to heal. He hammers Levi with a barrage of attacks to put immense pressure on him, but Levi declares that it won't be enough. He insists that Alec will have to try much harder, or else he will fully heal in no time. Alec smirks, however, as he can sense a bit of fear in Levi, but this just annoys his opponent to no end. Levi desperately wants to wipe the smirk off Alec's face with a punch, but Alec quickly dodges his attack. His counterattack just barely misses, as Levi avoids the critical strike, and Levi demands that he just give up. He rains down punches with brute force, but Alec weaves around them with precision. Levi's getting really frustrated now, as he tells Alec to just go down already, and his next punch manages to destroy Alec's weakened shield. Yora knows exactly what Alec is thinking though, and that is that this is the opening that he has been waiting for. She encourages our hero, and Alec finally lands a critical strike. Levi's an absolute beast though, as he plans to take Alec down with him, so he drops a brutal smash right on top of his head. Alec shocks everyone by avoiding the attack with lightning speed, and he appears behind Levi. He mockingly asks Levi what he thinks of the test now, and prepares to land a decisive blow. His attack fails, however, as his blade breaks. It turned back to a simple wand at the worst possible moment, and Alec realizes that he just ran out of mana. His clear victory just falls out of his hands, and he collapses to the ground with nothing left to give. Yora says that he's at his limit, but it doesn't matter to Alec, as he has already made his decision. He prepares to say what it is, but is interrupted by someone. This guy is disappointed to see that everyone was having fun without him, and we learn that his name is Ornist. Ornist calls Levi a pathetic old man because an S-rank adventurer being forced to use his most powerful techniques is not a good look. Levi doesn't want to hear it, and reveals that he was just about to pass Alec for taking all his most powerful attacks and still coming out on top. He has nothing to complain about now, so Levi declares that Alec can have the pass. Ornis walks up to his old friend and declares that he won this crazy gamble he took. A look back shows when the students from Alex's class at the academy attended their graduation. They were all disappointed to see that no one from Alex's party showed up, as they had high expectations for them. He and his party went to the royal dungeon at the very last moment, and they just didn't make it back in time for graduation. They were all pretty sure that something bad happened, but some of the students didn't have any sympathy for them. They said it was reckless for Alec and his party to try setting a new record of floors cleared, no matter how good they were. The royal dungeon is an incredibly dangerous place, and that record hadn't been broken in over 100 years. Of course, everyone was stunned when Alec's party arrived after reaching floor 68 of the dungeon. That was 31 floors past the old record, and what was most shocking is that they even cleared the floor with the Hydra boss. The headmaster of the school then awarded the 4 of them their diplomas. 4th in the entire class was Ornist, 3rd was the member named Kracia, 2nd was Yora, and Alec was the class valedictorian. They all thanked Headmaster Rosie, but she was quick to correct them and reminded them that her name was Rosa. This rambunctious group then went off to celebrate. On their way, however, Alec announced to his party that he had decided to become a court magician. He acknowledged that his father was against it, but he explained that he had a good reason. His friends were shocked, but Kracia had a feeling about why he was doing it, and acknowledged that court magicians are paid very well. Alec confirmed her suspicion by explaining that he wanted to make money so his father could finally live a relaxed life. His father raised Alec all by himself after Alec's mom died, so it was the least he could do. Besides that, Alec thought about how he wanted to change the system in honor of his old mentor. Alec was not oblivious, however, to how disappointing this news was to his friends. They all had planned to become adventurers together, but unfortunately that would have been the opposite of receiving a stable income. Ornis was the most disappointed of all, as he pointed out that if Alec joined them, then they would have been the top party, made up of the 4 greatest geniuses that the Academy had ever seen. Kracia teased him for calling himself a genius, but Ornis reminded her that he would have been valedictorian if he graduated in any other year. Their friendly bickering made Alec smile, but Yora had an important message for him. She said that while they may walk different paths at the moment, eventually her and the others will come recruit Alec. They all then had a heartfelt moment, and Yora reminded him that he could always come to them if he was ever in trouble. Alec said that he didn't know when it would happen, but when the time came, he would party up with them again. This would be the last time they saw each other for a while, so they all promised to meet soon. Back to the present, Alec recovers after using all his mana during the test. Ornis heard that a lot of stuff happened to Alec at the court, and Yorick confirms that it's a long story. Levi knows all too well how stuck up people are in the capital, and Ornis points out that everyone there says that commoners don't belong in the court. To them, only a person's lineage and title matter. Ornis would lose his mind if he had to stay there for even just one day, which makes it amazing to him that Alec was able to put up with it for 4 years. Yora agrees a little too much for Ornis' liking, so the two start bickering. Just then, the guild receptionist named Misha arrives to tell the guildmaster that something urgent is happening. It's time for Levi to get back to his real job, so he drags Misha with him and tells the others not to touch any of his booze. Ornis immediately ignores his order though, as he heads straight for the liquor cabinet, and he tells Yora that he's ready to hear about Alec's long story. Hours later, Ornis is furious after learning that Alec had to babysit the prince while being in his party. That meant Alec couldn't carry a sword, and he had to haul their bags while managing their inventory. Worst of all though, Alec couldn't cast any spells to make himself stand out. Yora shares his rage, as they both know that Alec's old party just wanted to treat him like garbage. As if things couldn't get any worse, Yora explains that they didn't even appreciate Alec at all, and they called his support magic worthless. Ornis is pretty surprised to hear that Alec can even use support magic at all, because he didn't back in school. Yora reminds him that support was her job back at the academy, so Alec never had to concern himself with it. This means that Alec learned all his support magic from scratch sometime after they parted ways. This is an incredible feat, because Alec had no knack for support magic, but now even his defense magic is getting to very impressive levels. The rage only keeps building inside of Ornis as he pictures Alec having to babysit the prince without using his sword or even his best magic. To top it all off, the prince coldly banished him and said that they didn't need him at all. Ornis' anger over the mistreatment of his friend reaches its peak, and he crushes a bottle from sheer rage. Just then, Alec wakes up to wonder why Ornis is making so much noise, and Ornis replies that he's just working out some issues he's having. Yora is pleased to reveal that Alec passed the test, so now they can all go together to the lower floors of the dungeon that their party was working on. Ornis interrupts though, and explains that they have more important matters to take care of. Of course, this confuses Yora and Alec, so the insane Ornis declares that it's time for revenge. His plan is for them to burst their way into the Galdana court and beat the life out of the prince. Alec does admit to being upset about how things ended, but explains that he isn't as upset as the crazy Ornis seems to be. Ornis persists though, as he reminds Alec that this isn't the kind of stuff a person should just take lying down. Alec calms his old friend down and simply explains that his solution is just not how the world works. Fighting other parties is forbidden, and there are serious consequences. Yora isn't okay with what they did to Alec either, but she acknowledges that there isn't really anything they can do. Alec doesn't want them to be upset, so he reminds them that they're back together now, and that's all that matters. Instead of dwelling on the past, they will just have as much fun as possible on their adventures moving forward. Alec then says that him just being happy is more than enough for him to get back at the prince. Ornis is completely on board with this, as another switch goes off in his head. He excitedly realizes that they just have to become the strongest adventurers in the entire world. Their names will be known by everyone, and Ornis is sure that anyone that betrayed Alec will regret their decision. The very petty Ornist also points out that when the country is in trouble and in dire need of help, they will have no choice but to come crawling to them. His head gets filled with fantasies, and he even imagines people calling him Ornis the Great when begging him for help. Ornis wonders what Alec thinks of his idea, but he doesn't even wait for his answer, as he is sure that Alec is excited to get started. He takes his imagination even further, as he says that they will decline to help the prince at first. Only when they humble themselves will they receive the power of their party. Alec actually likes the idea of becoming the strongest party in the world because it's a lot better than simply being a guard to the prince. The two of them are hyped, and they declare that this will be their goal from now on. Elsewhere, we see that a girl has taken some serious damage, and Levi has arrived to speak with her. The girl is from an S-rank party, but something gave them a lot of trouble. Trouble for an S-rank party means a problem for the whole guild, so Levi demands for this girl named Krista to tell him what happened. The matter is much worse than anyone could think, so she simply tells Levi that they need help, and they have to gather some people immediately. Levi gathers a room full of adventurers, including our heroes, and he briefs them on the situation. There aren't many adventurers as it was short notice, but they didn't have a choice. Levi reveals that he's putting together a party to rescue Krista's party called Rechroma. They're on floor 64 of a dungeon, and it's called the Tank Killer level. Back with Alec, we see that he's still recovering, when he's shocked to see that Kracia has arrived. They both wonder how the other's doing, and Kracia assumes that things aren't going well for our hero, based on how he looks. Kracia wonders why he didn't go to the meeting, so Alec points out that Levi asked for the city's A-rank adventurers to attend. Alec still considers himself to be an outsider, so he didn't want to interject. Jess and Kracia surprisingly heals all his wounds and gets right to business. She explains that she won't be asking him any questions about where he's been or what he's been doing, but if he's ever in pain, he needs to tell her. Healing magic is her specialty after all, and she always wants to make sure her friends are in good shape. This includes emotionally, so Alec opens up to her. He reveals that he hasn't shaken the habits he picked up while being at the court. He still holds himself back a bunch, and he still gets scared. Kracia gets him to admit that things were actually really hard for him because of how the nobles treated him, and he thanks her for letting him get that off his chest. Suddenly, Ornis barges in and tells Alec that it's time for an awesome adventure. They have been personally recruited for the rescue mission, and it's the perfect opportunity to begin their quest of becoming the strongest party. Yora explains that the Tank Killer level is in the dungeon that they were actually clearing. It's impossible to use healing magic down there, so Alec is surprised that Kracia wasn't against them going there. Kracia angrily points out that she was against it, but a certain idiot team member of theirs overruled her with his terrible decision. The two argue about who is the real idiot, but there are more important matters to discuss. The party called Rechroma was fighting the floor boss on the Tank Killer floor and nearly got wiped out. They sent Krista back alone to get help, so that is where they come in. Yora reveals that the floor boss has certain properties, so they will have to rely on Alec, as he is the perfect counter. Ultimately, Yora says that it's up to him if they take the mission and head for floor 64. He will definitely have the hardest job with the floor boss fight, but Alec says that it's not a big deal. He has completely recovered thanks to Kracia, and the only fear he has is that he might be a little out of practice when it comes to fighting at his full potential. They are ready to go, so Ornis insists that they hurry up so they can beat the others there. The guildmaster is going to the dungeon with his party as well, but Ornis wants all the glory. Kracia doesn't like how it sounds like they will just be an extra party compared to Levi's, but Alec doesn't mind at all. Ornis thinks they should be upset about being the side party, but Alec again isn't bothered. In fact, he has always known that he's usually just an extra unneeded piece. Ornis can tell that he's still stuck in this bad mindset from being in the court, so he reminds Alec that there isn't another person in this world that could take his place. Alec is the only person he trusts to be in their party, and he points out that the strongest party needs the strongest mage. Yora adds on by revealing that Levi said that their party could only go on the mission if Alec was joining them. It's clear that the guildmaster has taken an interest in his abilities, and that gives Alec more confidence. Ornis says that he will go register them now, as their party will officially be back together again. They arrive at the dungeon, and Ornis declares that it's time for the legendary Alec to get back on track. Alec apologizes for keeping his old friends waiting, but they respond by saying that they waited because they wanted to. They are not stuck in some tiny school anymore, and they now have the entire world to explore. Ornis assures them that they will overcome any challenge they face, and soon the whole world will know their names. Alec's party is ready to enter the dungeon, and Yora reminds them that their goal is to rescue the Recroma party. They're on floor 64, which is also known as the tank killer level, and healing magic doesn't work there. Trying to get to the 64th floor the normal way would take far too long, but luckily there's a magical item that solves this. It's an orb that allows adventurers to avoid boss fights all the way down to where the orb was dropped. It's an absolute must-have item for people that want to reach the deepest levels of a dungeon because they don't have to redo floors they have already cleared. The orb our heroes have personally would only clear the way down to floor 52, but luckily Krista gave them hers. It will be a shortcut straight to floor 64, so Alec can only wonder why the guildmaster would give them something so important. Yora explains that it's because the guildmaster has one of his own, and Kreischer reminds them that they're the B team in this mission. The boss on floor 64 is an undead, so Yora says that they will have to rely on Alec to fight it. Physical attacks are not effective against it, so Alec's magic is going to have to do most of the work. The others want him to conserve his energy until they face the boss, but Alec doesn't want to make his friends do all the work. Ornis promises him that it won't be a problem, and their best option is to make sure that Alec isn't out of gas when they need him the most. Krista adds that there will be plenty of monsters to go around, and they will have their hands full soon enough. This dungeon is notoriously dangerous, so they're pretty much heading straight into hell. As if that wasn't enough of a warning, Krista reminds them that the party that was nearly wiped out, the one they have to rescue, is filled with S-rank adventurers. Our heroes are not afraid, however, as this is the perfect way to start their journey to becoming the strongest party, and Yora uses the orb to take them inside. On floor 64, they are immediately met by several skeleton monsters. Ornis doesn't waste any time as he pulverizes a bunch of them, and he wonders if this is all floor 64 really has to offer. This crazy warrior rushes in to battle the army, and he ignores Yora's pleas for him to wait for her to cast her support magic on him. Alec is surprised when he realizes that Ornis has an artifact that he fights with. His weapon is called Almaretstica, the black spear that pierces and slashes. It's incredibly sharp and nearly impossible to break. Kreischer says that it's a weapon only crafted for brute force, but Alex says that it suits Ornis perfectly. Ornis is getting carried away as he fights the entire army himself, and Alec is disappointed because there's nothing for the rest of them to do. Alec tries to offer his help, but Ornis wants them to leave these weaklings to him. Just then, Alec senses something, but his thunderbolt attack doesn't hit anything. Alec assumes that he just imagined it, but he can't shake the feeling that something was there. A closer look reveals that a nearly invisible monster has been following them. Alec strikes it with his magical sword, and the creature is forced to show itself. It's a Grim Reaper, and Ornis compliments Alec for not having lost his edge, even after all those years of suppressing his true power. The Reaper's terrifying scythe nearly slices Alec in half, but he manages to block the attack. Alec yells at Ornis when he realizes that Ornis knew there was an invisible creature behind them all along. Ornis admits to knowing about it, but says that he didn't do anything because he doesn't know how to fight those kinds of monsters. There was not a single doubt in his mind, however, that Alec would be able to defend himself against it. Ornis adds that they are the perfect duo for this situation. Ornis is perfectly suited for brute forcing his way through an army of skeletons, and Alec's magic makes him the perfect opponent for the Invisible Reaper. Alec is a bit annoyed by Ornis not saying anything, but Ornis' confidence in him is something that he hasn't felt in a long time. It's been 4 years since anyone has had expectations and trust in him. That still doesn't excuse what Ornis did, so Alec takes his anger out on the Reaper and wipes it from existence. He realizes soon after that the girls also knew the Reaper was there, but they say that it was all Ornis' idea. Alec decides that he will settle things with his old pal when they get out of the dungeon, but Ornis points out that they will have to make it out alive first. Things soon get a lot tougher than they expected, as the endless wave of skeletons just keeps coming. Ornis is happy about it, however, because this is the kind of stuff that makes dungeons worth conquering. Yora quickly reminds him that they're not here to conquer, they are here to rescue, but Kreischer points out that there's no getting through his thick skull. Ornis explains that he doesn't need to be a genius to smash skeletons to pieces. He declares that he could take on the entire army all by himself, but Alec is done sitting back and waiting. The two of them rush in, and Yura uses reinforcement magic on them. The powered up duo slash through the monsters, and Kracia fires an arrow to help Ornist out. Yura does her best to contribute with some melee attacks, but Alec has grown more confident, and he decides to wipe out all the monsters all at once. He instructs everyone to get behind him, and he casts his powerful Thunderbolt spell. Thunderbolts rain down on all the skeletons, and the room is finally cleared. They are victorious, but something is bothering Ornist. He has noticed that Alec has only been using his Thunderbolt spell. Not just in this dungeon either, Alec also just used Thunderbolt when he fought Levi. Ornist remembers that Alec had a vast number of spells in his arsenal before, so he wonders why Alec is limiting himself. Alec didn't even really notice until now, but it has to do with the habit he picked up when he was in the prince's party. The prince never wanted Alec to use magic because it would make him look weaker, but the prince would always put himself in danger against stronger opponents. Alec decided to always have a magic spell ready in case he needed to rescue the prince, and his Thunderbolt spell was always just the fastest to activate. Alec doesn't explain everything though, and just tells the others that he's only been using it because it can be cast immediately. Ornist can tell that Alec is hiding something, but Alec pretends not to know what this crazy guy is talking about. They begin to bicker like old pals, but they're interrupted when the ground shakes. They have reached the deepest part of this floor, and Yura is scared of the terrifying sound of destruction that is ahead of them. It's clear that the floor boss is in the next area, but Ornist couldn't be happier. He instructs Yura to do what they always do, so she gives him a spell boost. She tells him not to get too crazy, and Ornist takes off. Alec notices that Ornist is much faster than them even when they're all boosted, so Yura explains that they have no chance of keeping up with him when Ornist wants to really bolt. Ornist has always been fast though, so Alec credits Yura's magic for really amplifying their abilities. He says that is why Yura is their leader, but this makes her blush, and she says that she's just doing her job. Eventually they catch up to Ornist, but Alec sees that some guy is running for his life. The guy desperately screams for help as he's being chased by the floor boss, and he points out that he can see Ornist just standing there. Yura says that the monster looks pretty upset, and the poor guy is terrified as he thinks he will be eaten. Ornist casually watches, but the guy points out that Krista sent them to help. He begs and pleads for someone to do something, but Ornist calmly says that the guy looks fine to him. Alec doesn't really understand what's going on, so Ornist explains that the guy who upset the monster down there is named Loki. He's a notoriously sneaky support mage, and is widely considered to be the worst piece of garbage in the Rickroma party. Loki warns Ornist that he's going to make him pay, because even if his life ends here, he will haunt Ornist as a ghost. He promises to whisper horrible curses into his ear every night, and make scary noises when he least expects it. Unfortunately, his end might come sooner than expected, as he trips and falls to the ground. Alec is ready to rescue him, but Kracia stops him, and explains that Loki is fine. It may look really bad, but this is actually how Loki fights. Just then, as the monster approaches, Loki gets a smirk on his face. The floor boss walks right into his magical trap, and a beam of fire pierces the beast. Alec is impressed by Loki's abilities, and Kracia begrudgingly admits that the guy is a meticulous strategist. The beast stumbles across even more of Loki's traps, and the attacks that emerge from them do major damage. Loki gets full of himself pretty fast, as he now turns to mock the beast. He calls it a moron, as he can't believe that it actually thought he tripped. His taunting intensifies as he laughs right in the beast's face, but this would soon backfire. This is still a level boss, and it shows when the monster prepares an attack. The air around Loki begins to warp just from the sheer force caused by the monster's preparation. Loki only now realizes just how much danger he's in, but it's too late. The beast releases the attack, destroying everything in sight, but Loki is shocked when he finds that he's still alive somehow. Ornist just saved him, and he tells Loki that he was really lucky. Ornist tried to tell the others to just leave Loki by himself for a while longer, but Alec rushed in to save him anyway. The others followed, and that is the only reason Loki's alive right now. The three now face the floor boss, and Alec announces that it's time for the game to begin. The beast immediately attacks them, but Yura blocks it with her shield. Alec is ready to attack, but the beast turns and runs in the other direction. The girls think that it's running away, but Alec notices that it's actually going after Loki. Yura celebrates when Alec lands a Thunderbolt attack, but Alec can tell that it wasn't enough. The beast has a really tough hide, and it's going to take a really strong attack to break through. The floor boss is just about to catch the guys, so Ornist has no choice but to turn and run the other direction. This works for a moment, as Ornist is able to maneuver his way under the monster, but Kracia calls him a crazy fool. She points out that he's just bringing the beast back towards them, but Ornist has an idea. He tells Kracia to catch, and he throws Loki right at her. Kracia catches him with her entire body, and Yura instructs her to take Loki to higher ground. Now that Ornist's hands are free, he's ready to take on the beast. Kracia really wishes that Loki would walk on his own, but he begs for her to be nice. Ornis is ready to fight, but he knows that it won't be easy, so he asks Yora what her orders are. She says that protecting Loki is their goal, so Ornis is in charge of taking the monster's aggro. When Loki gets to safety, it will be up to Alec to finish the boss. Krasia soon signals to the others that they have reached high ground, so the real battle begins. Yora gives a ton of boosts to Ornist, including strength, stamina, and speed boosts. There are also like 6 other ones, so Ornist runs straight at the boss. A quick dodge allows Ornist to close the gap between them, and he jams his spear into its face. This only infuriates the floor boss, however, and it tosses Ornist to the ground. Yora rushes to rescue him from getting crushed, and she says that she's counting on Alec now. Nearby, Loki notices that there's someone in their party that he doesn't recognize. Their party is called Lasting Period, and they were pretty well known at the academy, so Loki wonders if their 4th member has finally returned to them. Meanwhile, Alec is masterfully casting spells all around the beast. Loki's impressed because being able to cast 3 spells at once makes you a good mage, but casting 5 makes you a genius. Loki can't believe what he's seeing, but Krasia reveals that Alec can actually cast far more than just 5 spells at once. Alec keeps forming spells like he's conducting a beautiful symphony of destruction, and Loki loses count of how many spells he has made. There are at least 20, but Loki can't wrap his head around how this could be possible. Ornis isn't done either, as he condemns the beast for underestimating him. He distracts the monster from going after Alec, and he tells it to repent for ever doubting him. Ornis says that it can do it in the afterlife though, and he gets to safety. The timing is perfect as Alec is ready, and he finally unleashes the full wrath of all his Thunderbolt spells. He calls it Thunderbolt Acceleration, and Loki's jaw drops in amazement as he watches the beast being consumed by Alec's attack. The spell covers the beast completely, and Alec declares that it's time for his finale. Just then, Alec is shocked as the monster displays what a true level boss is like as it manages to evade Alec's final strike. It prepares a terrifying counter, so Ornis urgently tells Krasia to pin it down. Krasia doesn't need him to tell her, as she's already sending out her arrow rain attack. This launches thousands of arrows right at the beast, and Yora uses a bind spell to finally lock the monster down. Ornis tells it that there's no way to run now, and he joins in on the attack by striking it with his spear. Alec tops it all off with his 4-direction seal, but the beast just refuses to give up. The powerful monster has withstood everything they threw at it, and it once again prepares its attack. Alec admits that the beast is pretty calm considering the situation it's in, but explains that the attack that it's preparing is the worst thing it could use against him. This is because Eldest taught him a very special spell all those years ago. Only 2 people in the Academy's history could use it, and one of them was Eldest, the genius that created it. The other person is Alec. The beast finally releases the attack, but Alec uses the incredibly rare spell called Reflect. This sends the monster's beam right back at it, and this causes a massive explosion that lights the sky and pushes everyone back. The beast shows that level bosses this far down in a dungeon are terrifyingly strong creatures, as it still refuses to go down. Even though it is injured, it still gets ready to attack again, but Alec says that he isn't done either. This time he will reduce every bit of the monster to ashes, so he releases his Helios spell from the magic circles he placed earlier. This is one of his most ferocious attacks that we have seen, as it engulfs the beast in flames. It makes one last effort to try and crush Alec, but Alec reveals that it has another wild beast to deal with. He's talking about Ornist, who has already taken to the sky. Ornis instructs his spear to pierce and slash, and his attack cuts the beast's face in two. Yora celebrates their victory, but Ornis takes exception to being called a wild beast. It's just friendly banter though, as Alec explains that it's his way of rooting for Ornist. The girls join them, and Krasia gives a healing potion to Ornist, who she calls Mr. Fourth Place. Everyone has a good laugh at his expense, and Loki arrives to congratulate the legendary Lasting Period party. He knows quite a bit about them, so of course he knows who Alec is, and how he is a court magician. He's the legendary student that defeated a Hydra, but some people say that it isn't true. Loki's a believer though, and he's a fan of Alec. Alec explains that he isn't a court magician anymore, so Loki says that the Galdana royal court is really dumb for letting him leave. Loki promises to repay them for their help, but Yora just wants them to be more careful from now on. Loki asks if he can have more healing potions because he gave all of his to the other people in his party. In fact, they are probably using them right now while they are fighting the tougher floor boss. Of course, this shocks our heroes, as they thought that they just beat the floor boss. Loki explains that this monster they just beat was definitely a floor boss, but there is another one. Loki's job was to lead away the one with the lower IQ. Krasia says that Loki's only good for drawing aggro, but he likes being teased. He tries to hit on her, but Ornis cools him down with some healing potion. Loki mockingly thanks Ornis for trying to help him heal, so the two start arguing. Yora explains that the two of them are always like this, but Krasia doesn't want them to waste time. Loki gets back to business and explains that the true boss is undead just like the first one. It's a knight clad head to toe in black armor, and there might not even be anything inside. It's not a skeleton, and the full plate of armor is most likely the actual monster itself. Physical attacks won't do much more than stall it, so Loki has a special gift for Alec. Loki can tell that Alec can handle a weapon pretty well because he likes to get right up close to his enemy like a frontline fighter. He says that Alec is surprisingly skilled at making the enemy think that he's the biggest threat, but also the easiest to defeat. Alec is impressed that Loki was able to learn this much about him from just one fight, and he tells Loki that he has a sharp eye. Loki points out that he's a support mage, so reading the battlefield is a huge part of his job. As for the gift, it's an artifact, and he explains that they won't be able to fight bosses on deeper floors without one. The artifact transforms into its true form, and Loki reveals that its name is Schwart. It belongs to Alec now, and Loki explains that Schwart means the splitter of heaven and earth. Giving such a powerful gift to Alec makes Ornis suspicious, so he assumes that there's a price to pay. Yora reveals that she's already figured out what he is doing. For some reason, Loki's trying to convert Alec into an actual frontline fighter. Loki's amazed by Yora's brilliant deduction skills, and he reveals that he would prefer it if Alec didn't use any magic at all. If he doesn't use it, then he can keep the weapon. Kracia is confused, so she reminds him that they will be fighting an undead boss with no body, and physical attacks don't do anything to it. Magic is the only thing that can defeat it, so she assumes that Loki is just an idiot for not wanting Alec to use magic. The devious Loki explains that he just can't help himself. He loves things like lies, deception, and entrapment, and inhumane tactics are just what he does. This guy speaks in riddles, as he isn't ready to reveal his true plan yet. He says that you must fool your allies before fooling the enemy. He has a plan, and it's a way for them to use a surprise attack right in front of the face of their enemy. Back in the royal dungeon, we see that the prince is running for his life. He blames Lenny for not using defense magic, and she fails when she tries, and she explains that her magic isn't working. The prince decides that he will just have to fight himself, but he just gets wrecked. They retreat, and the prince can only think about how recently his sword feels so heavy in his hands. His defense is also much weaker than it used to be, and the prince realizes that all this weakness started right after he fired Alec. Instead of realizing that Alec made him stronger, the prince accuses Alec of putting a curse on him to get revenge. A mage named Vogon checks the prince and reveals that he's not cursed. The prince refuses to believe it and says that it has to be a curse because he wasn't able to make it past level 30 in the dungeon. Vogon explains that floor 30 is very unique because magic doesn't work there, and the prince probably felt weaker because the support magic he's used to wasn't working. The prince gets even more upset as he thinks support magic is a complete waste and only used by weaklings. Vogon points out that Alec should have warned them about floor 30 because he was part of the legendary party that made it all the way down to floor 68. The prince calls that story a myth and declares that he will make Alec pay for cursing him. The prince is pleased when he hears that the king wants to speak with him because he assumes that it has to do with Alec's punishment. This isn't the case, however, as the king wants to talk about a man named Eldis. He explains that Eldis was a complete fool because he dared to tell the king that he needed to change the way court magicians are treated. He warned that something terrible would happen to Galdana if the mistreatment continued, but the king banished him for this instead. The prince and the king are both in agreement that he deserved to be banished because no one has the right to speak to royalty this way. Unfortunately, the king reveals that there's more to the story. After Eldis was stripped of his position and family name, he attended the magical academy as a commoner. Eldis was then able to silence his critics with his immense skill. Under a new name, Eldis was able to make it back to the king as a court magician, but he just kept warning about the same thing. The king laughs at the foolish Eldis for trying so hard, and he declares that no one can tell him how to rule his nation. A look back shows Eldis trying to tell the king that commoners are not useless. He knew this firsthand because his life was saved by one. The king still thinks of him as a fool, even after he disappeared several years ago, but for some reason he has been thinking about Eldis's words lately. The king wonders if the prince knows why he sent him to the dungeon, so the prince answers that it was because he wanted him to earn the glory of breaking the floor record. This is wrong, however, as the king reveals that it was a test to see if he needs to change how things work in the kingdom, just like Eldis said. The prince failed the test, so the king has decided that it's time to change the way he rules the kingdom. From now on, talented people will be valued regardless of their status, and that includes commoners. They will no longer discriminate against the commoners, and the king uses Alec as the perfect example of a talented magician. The prince is horrified as he never thought this day would come, and he can't even imagine a world where they would have to rely on the help of commoners. The prince points out that the king was the one that taught him to think this way, but the king explains that he has now decided to heed the warnings of the foolish Eldis. The prince still refuses to accept this, and uses himself as an example of how commoners are harmful. He worked together with a commoner, and it only resulted in him getting cursed. Unfortunately for him, the king knows the truth. It turns out that someone actually brought to his attention the message that Alec was trying to send to the king. It was an extremely detailed guide on how to pass floor 30 of the dungeon. Written in the message are the characteristics of the monsters in there, the terrain, necessary items, and even all the skills one has to master in order to clear the floor. It contains pretty much everything, and the king points out that only someone who has cleared the floor many times would able to write something this detailed. The prince begins to lose his mind after he hears about this, so he excuses himself. His mind spirals into madness, and he starts to think that Alec wasn't really useless, and instead he was the worthless one. The prince assumes that he was so useless that Alec didn't even bother to give him the guide, and instead took it straight to the king. This makes him hate Alec even more, as he now thinks that Alec was just messing with his head. His hatred has reached its peak, so he tells Vogon that he needs his help with something. Back with Alec, Loki reiterates that he doesn't want Alec to use magic against the next boss. Ornis points out that Loki can't just boss them around, so Loki finally reveals his plan. He wants them to trick the monster into thinking that Alec is a frontline fighter. Once it lets its guard down, then Alec can use his magic. They have to do this because the next boss is very intelligent, and it's also a master of the blade. Alec agrees to wait for Loki's signal before using magic, so Loki turns his attention to Kracia. He needs her help with the spell, but Kracia hates this guy. They don't have a choice, however, because this floor of the dungeon is huge. They will have to teleport to the next location, but it requires a lot of magic power. The others are shocked because teleportation is a top secret magic that only national governments know how to use. Loki reveals that he stole information so he could learn how to use it, but he assures everyone that it's only illegal if he gets caught. He says that they're all in this together, but Alec just plans on pinning everything on the terrible Loki if they get in trouble. As they prepare the spell, Alec wonders if they can trust Loki. Yora isn't sure about trusting him, but she does know that they can rely on him. This confuses Alec, so she explains that a few years ago, Loki led a group on an extremely dangerous mission, and they returned without a single casualty, thanks to him. Alec is glad to hear this, so he decides to spar with Ornist to practice his swordsmanship before the big battle. The two guys joke about who will win, and Loki's amazed to see how close they are. Kracia explains that it's because their party has known each other for many years. She assumes that it's the same with the Rick Roma party that Loki's in, because he sacrificed himself for his friends by taking on a dungeon boss all by himself. Loki offers to teach Kracia a lot more stuff after seeing how good she is with the teleportation spell, but she just shuts him up. The battle will begin as soon as they teleport, so Yora gives some boost to her teammates. The group talks about how there's nothing like the feeling you get right before a boss fight. Loki can't help but admire how this is the perfect party, but he teases Ornis for being the only one that isn't a genius. After some lighthearted banter, the group teleports to the location, where they immediately encounter the boss. A look into the past shows that the Rick Roma party had failed to defeat the boss, and they realize that it was nearly impossible to escape from it. They wish that they would have escaped when they had the chance, but they decided that Krista was the only one that could get away. She was told to ask Levi for help, and instructed to request that they find an A-rank mage or higher. They have been fighting this entire time, but they're now at their end. Luckily, Ornis jumps in to take the aggro from the boss. Ornis acknowledges just how strong this empty piece of armor is, but he reveals that he has help. Alec joins the battle, but he's shocked when his surprise attack is dodged somehow. The two go toe-to-toe with the monster, and Loki takes his friends to safety. It's clear that this monster really is an empty suit of armor, but this just means that they don't have to hold back. Ornis has learned some of the fighting patterns of the beast, so he's able to pin it down, and Alec follows it up with a powerful strike. His attack knocks its head off, so Yora wonders if they really just won the fight. Unfortunately, this isn't the case, as the boss is still alive. Things only get more terrifying as the beast has something coming out of it, and our heroes realize that it's something called a Dullahan. It's an undead monster that's both a mount and a man. The incredibly powerful beast that they defeated earlier was actually just what the knight rode on. Just then, they lose sight of the boss, and it appears from the sky with an attack. It's crazy powerful now, and Alec is horrified when he realizes that it was holding back before. Ornis refuses to be ignored though, so Yora gives him a boost, and their combined attack sends the monster flying. The beast's armor is just too strong though, which shocks Alec because they're both attacking it with artifacts. The beast puts its head back on, and it lets out a loud roar before attacking again. Its power is only growing, and Yora must rescue Alec from being crushed against the wall. Alec can't believe that this thing is even able to use martial arts, and he thanks Yora. If she had been even just a second slower, then Alec is sure that he would not be alive right now. Loki says that he needs 3 more minutes before Alec can use magic, but Alec is running out of healing potions. He has no choice but to rejoin the battle though, so Ornis could heal himself. Ornis just used his final potion, but their spirits are still high as they joke about who will defeat the boss first. Things get serious for a moment though, as Ornis points out that Alec hasn't been himself since he returned to the party. Something obviously happened while Alec was away, so Ornis demands to know the truth. Alec just tells him to focus on the fight, but Ornis just won't let it go. He knows that Alec is hiding something, and he points out that he can't help unless he knows the truth. Ornis reminds Alec that they fought side by side for 6 years, so it's only natural for him to want to help his friend. Alec jumps back into the fight and finally reveals everything. He explains that he was trying to repay an old debt to his mentor by changing the way the royal court worked. That is why he left the party in the first place, but he failed to achieve anything. Ornis points out that Alec had good intentions, and he stuck it out for an entire 4 years. He endured a lot of hardship because of all the discrimination, and he never gave up. Ornis says that in his eyes, that is very respectable, and his words bring Alec a lot of relief. Alec sheds a tear just as the monster attacks him, but luckily Loki reveals that the 3 minutes are up. He rejoices knowing that he was able to trick the powerful monster, but everyone is horrified as the boss slashes him across the chest. Loki still laughs like a maniac though, as it was only an illusion. It was all to lure the beast into his trap, but Ornis can't believe it, as Loki told everyone that he was out of mana. Loki reminds them that they must trick their allies before they can trick their enemies, and this is what he meant. The beast was moving too fast for Loki's liking, so he set traps everywhere to slow it down. Ornis rushes to beat up Loki for tricking them, but Loki even planned for this as well. With Kraysha's help, he set a teleportation trap on Ornis' path to him, so that Ornis would be teleported right to the beast instead. His attack sends the beast flying, and Loki admires how Kraysha was able to turn the teleportation spell into a trap in such a short amount of time. The girl from Loki's party named Marbell rejoins the fight with the powerful smash. The beast dodges it, but Marbell points out that it always likes to dodge to the left. Loki was the one who noticed this, so they set an even bigger trap for the beast. The powerful monster has had enough though, so it goes straight for Loki. Loki has no fear as he tells the others to get back, but this beast shows that it really is a genius, as it finds the real Loki who is hiding. Loki uses a magic blade to defend himself, but one of his friends named Ryota is worried because Loki isn't strong enough to fight the boss. Ryota is shocked, however, when Yora shows that she's capable of using 7-fold physical enchantment. This is incredibly rare, and she uses it on Loki, but Ryota fears that it won't be enough. Loki has another trick up his sleeve though, as he had one more trap set up, but this time it was with Yora. It's a 3-point steal, but it's extremely hard to activate, which makes Ryota wonder who this girl is. Unfortunately, the beast still manages to knock Loki off the bridge, but Loki just tells Alec that the stage has finally been set. This is the exact moment they've been waiting for, so he tells Alec to take all the glory for himself, and Alec responds by telling everyone to leave the rest to him. With one wave of his wand, Alec summons several magic circles. This impresses Loki because the sheer number of spells is even more than Alec used on the other floor boss. Of course, it isn't easy to use so much mana, so Alec collapses from exhaustion. Alec's determination is unrivaled, however, so he stands once more and casts even more spells. Alec covers the sky in magic circles, and Marbell is amazed because she can't even see the beast anymore. Alec loudly unleashes his Thunderbolt acceleration spell, and bolts of lightning rain down upon the beast. It screams in agony as it takes major damage, but Ornis is in disbelief when the monster is somehow still able to move. Despite being electrocuted, the monster begins breaking some of their chains, and Yora realizes that her 3-point seal won't hold for much longer. Things are not looking good, so Yora pleads for Alec to end the fight right now. Alec tries hard to remind himself to keep drawing circles in his mind to cast even more spells, but he's extremely exhausted. He's on the verge of passing out, and Loki says that it's understandable. This is the second time in just one day that Alec is using acceleration, and any normal person would have been done for after the first one. The sudden drain of mana is proving to be too much, and Loki predicts that Alec's body will fail him soon enough. He points out that it doesn't matter how much of a genius Alec is, because he will still have his limits. Just then, Alec thinks about how he was banished as a court magician. It was a terrible failure, but Alec also thinks about how all his friends still believed in him. Even at his lowest, there were still people who reached out to him and gave him a chance. Those are all his closest friends, so Alec promises not to disappoint them. Alec pushes past his limits once more and unleashes an even more insane spell. Everyone is stunned, but Alec's friends know that this is the real Alec. Alec's attack summons a giant energy dragon, and he declares that this will be his final attack. Yora reaches her limit, so the seal begins to fade, and the beast frees itself. Alec is ready, however, so he instructs the dragon to devour his enemy. The beast tries to go in for an attack, but the dragon's far too powerful, and it easily smashes the boss monster into tiny pieces. Alec is victorious, but he collapses from exhaustion. It's not all bad though, as he thinks about how having people rely on him feels pretty good. Yora points out that their life isn't all about that though, because all they're really doing is going to a dungeon and having tons of fun adventuring. Ornis is glad to see that the old Alec is back, but Kraysha jokes that he could have done even more. Ornis points out that he's actually the winner of their little bet because it was a bet to see who would fall first. Alec was the one that collapsed, but Ornis promises to have mercy on him when deciding what to make Alec do as a punishment for losing. After some thought, Ornis decides on what he wants. He decides that Alec can't hide stuff from them anymore like he did 4 years ago. He points out that if anything is ever bothering Alec, he has 3 good friends that he can talk to. Ornis declares that that's Alec's punishment for losing, but Alec says that he's being far too easy on him. Ornis offers to pick something much worse, but Alec agrees to never hide anything from them. Loki tries to celebrate with the ladies, but he pays the price for his terrible hand placement. The leader of the Rec Roma party introduces himself as Rywell, and Marbell thanks Alec with a kiss. Yora is horrified to see this, and Marbell even invites Alec to go tackle another dungeon together. Yora is furious though, and reminds her that Alec is the mage in her party. Loki meanwhile points out that he has never seen anyone deploy as many spells as Alec did, and if it wasn't for Alec's party, they would have lost their lives. Loki thanks Alec for everything, and Alec thanks Loki in return because he really enjoyed carrying out his plan. Ornis and Kracia tease Loki because the help they gave means that Loki now owes them something. Loki has no choice but to agree to this, but he points out that the two of them are only on the same page when they are ganging up on him. Loki assumes that Alec wants a recommendation, but he says that that's asking for something really difficult. Alec doesn't even know what kind of recommendation he's talking about, so Rywell clarifies that he's talking about a recommendation for an S-rank promotion. To go from A to S rank, a person would need a recommendation from an S-rank party and the guildmaster's approval. Rywell declares that he will take care of it, and Ornis is sure that he will because Rywell is way more trustworthy than Loki is. Loki takes great offense to this, so he tells Rywell to back him up, but Rywell knows better than anyone that Loki cannot be trusted. Not a single person is on Loki's side, and everyone has a good laugh about it. Alec retrieves the magic gem left by the dungeon boss, and he shakes hands with Rywell before they leave. He says that Alec has a great party, and this comes as no surprise to Ornis, who declares that they are the legendary lasting period. At the guild, Misha is amazed to hear that they beat the floor 64 boss. The entire guild has been talking about Alec for days, and he's becoming very popular. The guildmaster didn't even get to the fight before Alec defeated the boss, so Alec's party's receiving all the money for the mission. Misha is sure that the mission was really tough, and Alec can't deny it because the dungeon is huge and it changes layout all the time. Alec then bumps into Levi, who tells him that he has a visitor. It's someone from his past, which means that they're from Galdana. Alec greets Vogon, but Vogon gets right to the point. He demands to know if Alec was trying to get the prince killed, and this question shocks our hero. Vogon is upset as he wants to know why Alec didn't tell the prince that he was too weak to go so far into the dungeon. Alec points out that Vogon knows him well, so he should already know that his intention was not to end the prince's life. He explains that the prince simply would not have listened to a word he said, so he tried telling the king instead. Alec doesn't want anything bad for the prince, and he has even been thinking about the magician that the king recruited to replace him. Alec is worried that the replacement isn't doing a good job, but Vogon is annoyed by the entire situation. He says that being a mage in the prince's party is a massive waste of time because the job is really just to be a babysitter to a spoiled brat. Alec is shocked to learn that the prince tried to take on floor 30 and was badly wounded. He has fully recovered, but Vogon was still planning to lecture him about it. Unfortunately, the prince wanted to train with Vogon instead, which Vogon says is even worse. The most annoying part though, is that the prince ordered for Vogon to escort him all the way out to the city. Alec is stunned because this means that the prince is here now, and Vogon warns him that the prince still has something against Alec. The prince is waiting for Alec in the underground arena, and Alec is actually glad because he has some words for the prince as well. He wants to finally put the past behind him, so Alec heads underground. Vogon warns that the prince has a lot of pride, so Alec points out that that is just part of being a noble. Vogon calls having so much pride a waste of time, but Alec points out that Vogon is also a noble. Vogon doesn't care about any of that, however, as he explains that he just lives his life the way he wants. When they arrive, we see that Regulus is waiting for him, and is pleased to see that Alec accepted his invitation. He is furious, however, as he explains that the king wants to change how the kingdom is run. Regulus had to concede to his father's decision, but he refuses to compromise his own beliefs. Working together with commoners goes against everything he was taught, because the commoners are nowhere near as capable as those that were born as the chosen elite. Regulus can't understand why his father is treating him like this now, and he begins to wonder if his entire 15-year life has all been a lie. He refuses to accept that, and he tells Alec that someone like him could never understand how he feels. Regulus has completely lost control of his emotions, and Alec agrees that he doesn't understand the young prince, not how he feels, or why he refuses to accept the truth. All Alec can tell him is that his mindset is wrong, but this just upsets the prince even more. He can't admit to being wrong, and Alec points out that Regulus never listened to a word he said anyway. If Regulus had listened to him, then things would be different now, but the prince still isn't interested in hearing any nonsense. He points out that Alec will always be a useless commoner, so he will never be able to tell a prince what to do. Alec can tell that this is going nowhere, and the prince finally finds something to agree with. Talking isn't doing anything, and Regulus declares that he isn't going to change anything about himself. He says that he doesn't need to, and he challenges Alec to a fight. He reminds Vogon to keep his promise, and reveals the true purpose of them coming here. Regulus plans to prove to his father that the change he seeks is not necessary. He will prove that with his own hands by defeating Alec, and Vogon is here as a witness. Regulus goes in for the first attack, but our hero is prepared. He is surprised though by the prince using twin blades, but Regulus can't understand why. His daggers are artifacts, and he's sure that Alec has seen artifacts before. The reason Alec is surprised though has to do with their past. Alec actually told the prince before that the weapon he was using was just too hard for him to use, and Alec wanted him to change it. Alec explained that the longsword was too heavy for the young prince because he was still growing. He suggested that Regulus switch to wielding two small daggers because they would be easier and better suited to the prince's needs. The prince didn't seem to listen at the time, but now he's wielding twin blades. Unfortunately, Regulus isn't the great fighter that he thinks he is, and he only ends up falling flat on his face. Alec determines that this entire duel was all Vogon's idea, so Alec demands to know what he told the prince. Vogon explains that he told the prince that if he wanted to refute Alec's strength, then he should first see it for himself. If he insists on disproving Alec's power against all opposition, then he must do it himself alone as the crown prince. The prince's emotions are out of control, and Alec points out that he's still as stubborn as ever. Regulus charges in once more, but he's unable to land a single hit. Vogon says that he doesn't respect idiots who are all talk. However, idiots that take action are acceptable to him. Because of this, Vogon taught Regulus how to fight Alec with blades. Regulus does eventually manage to demonstrate some of this training as a powered-up attack breaks Alec's shield. Alec is unfazed, however, and Regulus reveals that he has actually come to understand something. The only reason he was able to fight as well as he did when they were in the same party was because of Alec's support magic. It's why he was able to survive so many dangerous situations and why he was able to make it so far into the dungeon. Alec simply reminds him that the king ordered for him to protect the prince, so that is what he did. Regulus reveals that after he fired Alec, he kept trying to clear floor 30 of that dungeon. However, each time, he was gravely injured and forced to retreat. Alec is then shocked when Regulus says that they found a letter that Alec tried to give the king. Regulus was infuriated after reading it because Alec was right about everything. The report was incredibly detailed and simply perfect. There wasn't a single flaw, and Alec thought of everything when he wrote it. He even took into account the prince's personality and all the actions he would likely take. This made it clear to Regulus that Alec was a true genius, but this just made things worse. Regulus's mind just can't accept that, so he says that Alec is the real problem. The only way that things can make sense again is if the prince defeats Alec in battle and knocks him down a peg. His victory has to be earned, however, so he demands for Alec to use his artifact to fight as well. Regulus calls him a useless commoner once again, so Alec realizes that he will not back down, and he brings out his weapon. Alec can tell that Regulus is already aware of his powers, so he makes sure that this fight is really what the prince wants. Regulus is caught off guard when the reality of Alec's power begins to set in, and Alec only has one last question. He wants to know how the king came to his decision about changing the kingdom. Regulus reveals that his father wanted to test the strength of the commoners, which is why he sent them to the dungeon together in the first place. Regulus is upset by this as well, as he points out that the king used both of them. They were just an experiment before his father made his final decision. The king being open to the idea of change makes sense to Alec because the king was the only one at the court who treated him like a person. Regulus assumes that Alec is furious about being used, just like he is, but the prince is shocked when Alec reveals that it's the opposite. Alec thought that he wasted those 4 years of his life trying to change the court, but now he realizes that those years had far more value than he could have imagined. The change is really happening, and to him, that's the best reward possible. It's time for battle, so Alec prepares himself. A power begins to surge from his entire body, and this even catches Vogon's attention. The prince begins to tremble in fear, but it's too late to do anything about it. Alec charges at him, and Regulus just now realizes that he's no match for Alec. Alec does massive damage, but Vogon is shocked to see that our hero spared the young prince's life. His attack left a giant slash in the ground, but Regulus can only wonder why Alec didn't strike him. He assumes that it's sympathy, so Regulus reminds Alec of all the terrible things he did to him. He insulted Alec all the time and ignored him whenever he tried to say anything. The prince desperately wants Alec to hate him, but Alec is completely unbothered. With nothing left, Regulus breaks down, and he begins to question himself. The prince wonders who he is, and realizes now that he had forgotten the answer to that question a long time ago. He has become a completely different person, and he doesn't even know what to do now. He doesn't know the difference between right and wrong anymore, so he begins to sob. Regulus believed in himself for the longest time, but it has only led him to this moment. He was sure that he was right in his beliefs, but his entire world is falling apart because of them. Regulus wouldn't have cared if Alec ended his life, because he thought that it would make his father reconsider his decision. That was the only way Regulus thought that he could be right about everything, but nothing is working. Now even a commoner is looking down on him with pity, so he demands for Alec to give him the answers to all his questions. He pleads for Alec to tell him who he is and what to do now. Of course, Alec can't answer these questions for him, and he can only laugh. He doesn't laugh as an insult, but more because it's just funny how things turn out sometimes. Alec came here to tell the prince off, and he was even ready to fight him. He was sure that they would be swearing and cursing at each other the entire time. Alec admits to being pretty mad himself before the fight, but for some reason, the prince somehow just ended up asking him for life advice. Alec lightens the mood as he points out that life is just funny sometimes, and he's shocked when the prince manages to humble himself to say sorry to Alec. He angrily apologizes again and wonders if Alec is satisfied now, but Alec just says that he wasn't being sarcastic or anything. He admits that he doesn't really understand anything either, but the prince doesn't know what he means. Alec explains that people have been helping him out his entire life. Who he is or what he should do next, Alec still can't even answer those questions for himself. However, he does know that those aren't questions for other people to answer. Alec suggests that the prince should find those answers and decide for himself. Alec offers a hand to him, but Regulus refuses at the last moment. He has cooled down after losing his emotions and says that he doesn't know why he was speaking with Alec in the first place. The prince returns Alec's robe that he ripped off his back when he fired him, and he admits that it wasn't right. On top of that, Vogon reveals that the king sent something to Alec. Regulus explains that it's a message saying that the king is keeping the seat of court magician open for Alec. It's open for Alec whenever he wants it, so Alec can only wonder if the king is ordering him to accept it. Vogon explains that it's actually just a request, but Alec is still hesitant. Regulus is then shocked when Alec refuses both the robe and the letter. Alec simply explains that his new party has a rule against leaving, so there's no way that he can go back to being a court magician. More importantly though, Alec says that he just doesn't want to. Alec has a message for the king as well, and he tells Vogon to relay it to him. He says that a lot of bad stuff happened those 4 years, but he still thanks the king for everything. Regulus still gives Alec his robe back and just leaves. He calls Alec a fool for rejecting the kindness of the king, but Alec points out that the prince always thought of him as a fool anyway. He teases the prince one last time as he reminds him that he's just a useless commoner, and Regulus tells Alec one last time just how much he hates him. Alec says that he feels the same way about the prince, and he's glad that they finally agree on something. The two part ways, but we see that the prince managed to learn something as he laughs on his way out. A while later, Alec asks his party members if they're free for the day, and they all confirm that they aren't doing anything. Alec explains that he would like for them to show him around Fizzel, but Ornis interrupts him as he has come down with a terrible stomachache. Alec points out that he doesn't look sick at all, but Kracia's next to interrupt him as she remembers that she has something important to do. She pretends to have tons of stuff to do, so Kracia and Ornis tell Alec to just go with Yora. After they leave, Yora can only sigh because those two always try to be helpful in the weirdest ways. Yora nervously wonders if Alec would just like to wait for their friends, but Alec is fine with it just being the two of them. Yora can't believe that he wants to be alone with her, so she happily agrees to show him everything there is to see in Fizzel City. On their trip, Yora explains that Fizzel is an adventurous town. They can find anything in the shops here, but she warns that they have to watch out for shady merchants. All of them will push their junk onto unsuspecting rookie adventurers. Yora ends up buying a bunch of junk herself, however, and Alec marvels at how good the salesmen are here in the city. One merchant then offers her a special medicine that lets adventurers fight for 10 days straight without sleep, and Yora's amazed by it. She has never heard of such a thing, but Alec is disappointed because he knows that she's smarter than to fall for such lies. Yora is caught off guard when Alec takes control, and he tells her that they're moving on. Yora is getting distracted by all the shops, so Alec decides that they will just have Ornis and Kracia do the shopping for them another time. Yora agrees, but she points out that they did the shopping before, and it didn't go so well. Instead of buying the necessities, Ornis bought a bunch of swords, and Kracia bought a giant teddy bear. Yura insisted that they return the useless items, but they both had reasons for why their purchases were important. Ornis said the swords were good for his morale, and Kracia just said that she didn't buy the teddy bear, she adopted him. Yura complains about how they can't be relied on to do the shopping, but Alec can't help but notice the bag of junk that she just bought. Alec is the most responsible, so he decides to do the shopping from now on, and Yura's glad to have him back in the party. As they take a coffee break, Alec wonders why Ornis and Kracia don't like Loki very much. Yura explains that the story goes all the way back to before Ornis had his artifact. Ornis has always been careless and sloppy, and when it's time to fight, he likes to wave his weapon around a lot. In reality though, Ornis takes really good care of his weapons, and he's always cleaning and polishing them. Alec remembers this clearly from when they were at the academy. He once wondered why Ornis didn't just buy a new weapon instead of cleaning and repairing the beat up one that he had, so Ornis explained that he valued his weapon a lot. As long as it didn't break on him, he would never swap out a weapon that he entrusted his life to. Yura explains that 2 years ago, their party ran into an A-rank party that was having trouble in a certain dungeon. They aided this party, and Loki and Raiwa also showed up to help. They then worked together to fight a giant floor boss. Ornis was as powerful as always, and he even rescued one of the others from being splashed by acid. They were victorious, but Ornis was severely injured when trying to protect the adventurer. Alec wonders if he was okay, but Yura says that he was not. Ornis tried his best to pretend that he wasn't hurt at all, but his legs gave out on their way back home. Alec admits that Ornis has a weird kind of pride that won't let him show weakness, and Yura agrees. Ornis could barely walk, so Loki and Raiwa had to carry him back. Yura points out that the story has been pretty normal so far, but this is when things took a turn. While Ornis was passed out, Loki said that his weapon was too beat up to be usable, and he tossed it away. Yura doesn't believe that Loki did it to be a jerk, and she thinks that he just got rid of it because it was damaged. Of course, Ornis was really upset about it, and Loki only made things worse with his words. Loki couldn't believe that Ornis was so upset about it, and he declared that weapons are disposable. Ornis took great offense to that statement, and it was all downhill from there. Yura thinks that if Loki had just kept his mouth shut, then everything would have been fine, but Loki's mouth is always getting him into trouble. Aside from that, Loki always plans things out, but Ornis never does. Loki avoids trouble beforehand, but Ornis just relies on his animal instincts to get himself out of trouble. They are complete opposites, and Yura thinks that those two were never going to get along. They have only been getting testier and testier with each other, and Yura thinks it's really silly. As for Kracia, she thinks that Loki's the type to always bring trouble. On top of that, he's incredibly obnoxious, and she can't stand to be around him. As they continue their trip, Alec is reminded about how they all used to shop together at the academy. They would all pool their money together so they could buy potions, and this reminds Yura of something. She explains that Kracia would try to make her own potions, and she would fail every time. The two have a good laugh at their friend's expense, and they move on. A while later, Yura's amazed to find an elven ribbon for sale. It's a rare item, and it increases a mage's magic power. Yura has been looking for one for the longest time, but this thing costs 50,000 gil. That's a little out of her budget, but if she doesn't buy it now, then she might never find another one. She simply can't afford it, so she will have to leave the ribbon, but Alec shocks her by just buying it for her. Yura wonders if it's really okay, so Alec explains that it's a necessity. He says that Yura's magic is what keeps their party fighting, and Yura promises to cherish the gift forever. Their little journey goes on for hours, and at the end the two enjoy a nice view. Alec loves how free and alive Fizel feels, because it's nothing like Galdana. Alec really enjoys being here, as it makes him feel like he's really an adventurer. Just then, Yura wonders if it would be okay if Alec answered her question again. In Galdana, she invited him to rejoin their party, but she feels like she took advantage of the fact that he had just been banished from the court. Yura feels really guilty about it, because sometimes she thinks that he isn't where he really wants to be. Alec interrupts her before she begins to cry, and he admits that there was more that he wanted to do in Galdana. However, he says that doesn't matter anymore. Right now, he really likes Ornis' idea of aiming to become the strongest. Alec declares that what's most important is that the four of them do it together, and this brings tears of joy to Yura's eyes. Yura reminds him that they don't let party members quit, and Alec is well aware. Yura becomes happy again, and she proclaims that they can't be the real lasting period without the four of them together. Yura promises to make Ornis chase Alec to the end of the world if he forgets that, and Alec promises not to. Alec is the type to keep things to himself, so Yura is relieved to hear him say such reassuring things. Alec then becomes very serious as he tells Yura that he wants her to know his true feelings. Yura is shocked at first, but this is her dream come true, so she prepares for his kiss. Unfortunately, that isn't it at all, as Alec just wanted to explain why he's being more open. Alec points out that he lost his bet with Ornis in the last battle, and as his punishment, he's not allowed to keep things to himself anymore. Yor is incredibly disappointed, but Alec has never been more serious. He declares that it wasn't just a game, it was a wager between two men. Alec apologizes for getting so serious on her, but Yor is upset for a very different reason. The next morning, Ornis wakes Alec up, and he can't believe that Alec was up all night studying again. That's all Alec has been doing lately, so Ornis instructs him to wash his face and get changed. He declares that adventurers' days start early, and Alec is shocked by how much energy Ornis always has in the mornings. Their day starts as usual, and that is with a sparring session. The two really go at it, and Yora can't understand how the two of them never get tired of fighting all the time. She tells them that it's too early to be fighting so hard, but Ornis points out that melee weapons are built to fight hard. Alec reminds them that they all have 4 years of real combat experience over him, so he needs to do everything in his power to catch up. Their battle only intensifies from here, and it only comes to an end when Ornis thinks that he has the upper hand. He's about to land the finishing blow, but Alec blocks him, and his sword even breaks. Ornis can't understand why Alec thinks that he needs to catch up, because he's a monster right now, and Yora can't believe what she just saw. Alec was sure that he would beat Ornis today, but Ornis declares that he could never beat him in a fight, even if he had another 100 years to try. The guys decide to take things up a notch by fighting with their artifacts, but Yora must stop them as they're going too far. She refuses to let them get hurt during training, so the guys stop. Loki arrives and offers to give them some coaching because he's an S-rank adventurer. He just gets ignored, however, as Alec reminds his friends that they will be coordinating for the deeper floors of the dungeon today. Loki gets their attention when he reveals that he just gave his recommendation for them to become an S-rank party. He shows them an S-rank ID, but he doesn't let them get a good look at it. Loki only promises to give it to them if Alec compliments him for being right all the time and bows down to him. Loki laughs like an evil villain as he taunts them, but this just gets him punished by Krista from his party. Rywell is there as well, and they apologize for Loki's behavior. They come with a message from the Guildmaster, and they deliver it to our group. It reveals that the Rekroma party recommended the Lasting Period party, and the recommendation was approved. This means that everyone in Lasting Period has been promoted to S rank, so our heroes celebrate. Krista calls Alec the Five-Colored Magician, and she explains that S-rank parties are allowed to access the Arcana dungeon. It's a highly difficult dungeon, and it's even more dangerous than floor 64 of the dungeon they were just in. Rywell offers to answer any questions they have whenever they want, because it's the least they can do after they rescued their party. They promise to drop everything and come running if they ever need help, so Alec thanks them. Loki wants them all to get some food together to celebrate, but the girls don't like how close he is. They do, however, take him up on his offer, and they tell the others that Loki will be treating everyone to a giant and expensive celebratory feast. Loki tries to cancel after the guys point out that they like to eat a lot when celebrating, but it's too late and Loki's dragged off. The two parties then celebrate together, and Ornis refuses to let Kracia outdrink him. He finishes his beverage and tells the waiter to bring him the whole barrel. Alec marvels at the fact that they're all really S-rank now, and Ornis hopes that he's instilled doubting if he really belongs here. Ornis knows his friend well, so he knows that Alec doesn't think he can be an S-rank because he didn't really do anything. Ornis refuses to let him continue thinking this way, so he threatens to beat Alec up if he does. He reminds everyone that this is only the start of their journey, and their legend is just beginning. If anyone is stuck thinking about stuff, then he promises to beat it out of them. Everyone is on the same page now, so they all have a toast about them being S-rank. The guys order the most expensive alcohol the place has to offer, so Loki begs for them to be nicer to his wallet. After the celebration, Alec must carry Yora as she got completely hammered. Kracia explains that Yora was really happy, but it wasn't just because of their promotion. She was also happy about Alec choosing them over the king. Alec doesn't think it was a big deal, but it was to Ornis, as he's impressed that Alec tackled so much without the rest of them even being there. Ornis declares that if he was there, then he would have broken every single bone in the prince's body. Just then, Misha urgently tells Kracia that someone needs healing. Kracia goes to help, and Misha explains that there are too many injured for the guild's healers alone to handle. Misha offers to pay Kracia, but Kracia tells her that it can wait until they finish their next job. More importantly, she wants to know why so many people have been injured. She assumes that they were on some big raid, but Misha reveals that these men were not injured by monsters. Misha is surprised that Kracia hasn't heard about this, and she reveals that these adventurers were injured by other people. A group of criminals have been attacking adventurers, and they are called the Shadow Guild. Levi then reveals that they're even more injured. The infirmary was full, so he had to bring one girl to his room, and she's in really bad shape. Her name was Olivia from the Nameless Party, and she was all by herself when she was attacked by the Shadow Guild. Levi leaves Kreisha to heal her, and Kreisha is startled by the girl's wounds. She has blade wounds all over her body, so Kreisha determines that she was attacked by a swordsman. Olivia is struggling to even breathe, so Kreisha realizes that she will probably be here all night healing her. Just then, Olivia wakes up and demands to know where she is. Kreisha explains everything and asks her if she remembers what happened. Olivia freaks out as memories come rushing back, and she becomes furious at someone for being a traitor. She vows to get her revenge, but Kreisha must warn her to calm down because her body can't handle stress right now. Olivia just tells Kreisha to hurry up and heal her wounds because there's something that she desperately needs to do. Olivia is very serious about it, but Kreisha casually rejects her idea. She explains that Olivia will just make things worse if she tries to do anything with her wounds, so she will just have to wait. Olivia becomes infuriated as she points out that Kreisha doesn't know anything about what she's capable of, but even this is too much for her, and she passes out. Kreisha can finally get to work, but she notices something. Olivia has plenty of fresh scars, but she's also covered in old ones. This shows how many battles she has survived, and Kreisha realizes who Olivia is. Olivia from Nameless is one of Fizel's best sword fighters. She's quite famous in the city for her great accomplishments, so Kreisha can only wonder who did this much damage to her. There's no time for questions, however, as Kreisha has a long night ahead of her, so she begins the healing process. The next morning, we see that Kreisha fell asleep after hours of work. At the library, Alec is pleased to find a book containing the records of the Arcana dungeon. He thinks about how he's down 4 years in experience, so the least he can do is make up for it with knowledge. Just then, Alec is shocked to hear that some kid knows his name, and the kid says that Alec has always been a good student. Alec didn't notice this kid, even though he's been sitting there for a while, so he apologizes for being so engrossed in his book. Alec wonders how he can help the kid, but the kid just talks about how the parfaits at the cafe next to the library are really good. He loves sweets, and he also points out how hungry he is after waiting so long for Alec to notice him. He wonders if Alec is getting what he's trying to say, and Alec does. Alec takes him to the cafe to feast on some parfaits, and he's shocked when the kid orders 5 more. Alec wonders if this is some kind of prank, so he tells the kid to get to the point. The kid introduces himself as Lorg, and he reveals that he's a member of the S-rank party called Nameless. Lorg heard that last period's 4th member had returned, and they made it to S-rank. Lorg was surprised, so he wanted to see who this 4th member was. Alec wonders what he has learned so far after just meeting him once, and Lorg reveals that he learned that Alec is the perfect missing piece. Alec is shocked as he has no clue what the kid is talking about, so Lord asks Alec if he would be interested in joining his party for a raid in the Labyrinth dungeon. A while later, Kreisha goes to check up on Olivia, and she's surprised to find that she's already training again. She has already done 500 practice lashes, so Kreisha tells Levi to be a good guild master and stop her. Unfortunately, Olivia won't listen to anyone, and she keeps insisting that she doesn't want to talk about the Shadow Guild either. Kreisha reminds her that she's injured, so she needs to lay down, and Levi tries to get her to talk about what happened. Olivia refuses to answer any questions, and she only cares about her condition. She still can't move her legs properly, so she tells the healer to do her job and fix them. Kreisha demands for her to say her name, and Levi tells Olivia that she will have to start cooperating. Olivia says that what happened is her problem, and Levi realizes that this woman is really testing his patience. He's caught off guard though when Kreisha says that she will now treat her patient, so he will have to get lost. Kreisha fixes up Olivia's legs, but warns her not to do anything dumb so they can heal properly. Olivia is relieved because Kreisha isn't asking her about what happened, and Kreisha thinks about what Olivia said the night before. Olivia desperately wanted revenge, so Kreisha has decided not to pry for information. She is just here to help in any way she can, and if she can't help, then she will find someone who can. Kreisha just likes to keep things simple, and Olivia likes the way she chooses to live her life. Just then, Kreisha is surprised when Olivia apologizes. She was cruel to Kreisha, and Olivia admits that it was her weakness that got her into this mess. Now Kreisha is being really nice to her, so Olivia promises to repay that kindness one day. She becomes very embarrassed, however, when Kreisha kisses her on the forehead. Kreisha calls it a type of healing magic and a little charm to help Olivia relax. This reminds Olivia about how she used to be consoled by her mother as a child, and she says "Mom" out loud. She pretends like she didn't say anything, however, and just asks Kreisha to bring something for her to drink. Olivia hasn't eaten anything in over a day, so she has another favor to ask. She would like some snacks, but after Kreisha leaves, we see that Olivia really wanted some time to do something to Kreisha's drink. Elsewhere, Alec tells the others about the invitation their party has received from Lorg. Lorg from Nameless wants their 2 parties to enter a dungeon together for a raid. Alec told the kid that he would think about it, and Ornis says that he has heard about Lorg. Lorg looks like a kid, but people say that he's older than all of Alec's friends combined. Alec can't believe it, so Yora explains that Lorg is an elf. Nameless is working on a dungeon called the Labyrinth, and Lorg gave Alec some details. They will be heading to floor 72, which is the second to last floor of the dungeon. The plan is to clear it quickly and grab the dungeon core from the last floor. Alec couldn't believe that Lorg's party wanted them to join at the very end of their dungeon raid, and Lorg pointed out that it's a great deal for them. The vast majority of the dungeon has already been cleared for them, and Lorg even offered to let Alec's party have the dungeon core if they want it. Lorg explained that his party needed an answer quickly because they need to settle the score with someone. This someone is pretty dangerous, and Alec was shocked when Lorg revealed that it was the Shadow Guild. The Shadow Guild hurt one of their friends, so Lorg plans to take them down for revenge. Lord has to handle the Shadow Guild, and he can't help with the dungeon raid, so that is why he asked Alec's party to take his place. Lorg then just put the core for floor 72 on the table, and he left. After Ornis hears the entire story, he finds it very hard to believe. They will get to jump all the way to the second to last floor, and are even allowed to keep the core from the final floor. On top of that, the Nameless party is going to take care of the Shadow Guild at the same time. It's all too good to be true in Ornis' eyes, so Yora wonders if Lorg is trying to trick them. She admits that Lorg is a pretty strange guy, but he's also the person who keeps Nameless together and functioning. He is their central member, so she wonders why he would tell such a pointless lie. Ornis declares that they shouldn't waste time thinking when they can just ask someone directly. He heard about Olivia being at the guild, so he thinks they should just interrogate her. Yora reminds him that she's injured, but Ornis is sure that Kracia has finished healing her by now. On their way, Ornis says that an S-rank being defeated by the Shadow Guild is a bad look for all the S-ranks like themselves. Just then they're shocked as Misha urgently tells them that something happened to Kracia. Inside, Kracia collapses into Alec's arms, and everyone is concerned for her. Kracia reveals that she was drugged, and Olivia's gone. She assumes that Olivia went back to the labyrinth, but Ornis can only wonder why they should even care. Kracia explains that Olivia is still injured, and there's no way that she can survive in the dungeon in her current condition. Ornis still finds it hard to care, so Kracia explains that the Shadow Guild is in the labyrinth, and that makes it even more dangerous. Ornis points out that Olivia is an S-rank swordswoman, so she won't fall for the Shadow Guild's trap twice. And even if she does, that is not their problem. Ornis also says that this behavior is not like Kracia at all, and he reminds her to calm down. Kracia is still concerned, however, because she knows that Olivia is looking for a traitor. The person in the labyrinth isn't just a Shadow Guild member, it's someone who can nearly end the life of an S-rank swordswoman. Olivia was only able to go back because Kracia healed her, so Kracia's taking responsibility for this. She will never be able to forgive herself if Olivia loses her life, so she has already made her decision. This is her problem now, and she will go alone if she has to. Kracia is amazed, however, when she finds that her friends are also ready to go. Without a second thought, they say that if this is Kracia's problem, then it's their problem too. Yora can't believe how stubborn all their party members are, and she wishes that they would think about how hard that is for her as their leader. Kracia is just relieved to see that her friends have her back, and even Ornis is on board. He doesn't want to make it seem like it's for Kracia, however, so he says that they were just going to the labyrinth anyway. Kracia teases him by telling him to say it again, but Ornis refuses. Our boy Ornis is eager to get the action started, so he goes over the plan. They will clear the last 2 floors of the dungeon, and they will find the missing lady on the way. When they arrive at the dungeon, Ornis points out how much of a pain this will be. There are teleporters everywhere inside, and it's a literal labyrinth. Just then, everyone is shocked as Marbella appears out of nowhere. She says that she just came to see Alec, but quickly takes it back as a joke. In reality, she heard that Olivia ran off and was headed back to the dungeon. Marbella wanted to stop her, but it's clear now that she's too late. The next best thing for her to do is to tag along with the Lasting Period party so she can help in any way she can. Lorg even asked her to join the raid with them in Nameless. She says that she can take Olivia's place in the raid because she's also an S-rank swordswoman. Most importantly though, Marble says that she is here because she wanted to see more of Alec's huge fancy spells. Yora refuses to let her touch Alec and says that the raid will be easier for her party if it's just the 4 of them. They are not like Nameless because they actually care about team dynamic. Ornis explains to Alec that the members of the Nameless party basically act like 4 solo adventurers. Lore got them all together in one party, but they each prefer fighting alone. When they're not dungeon diving, they couldn't care less about each other. Marbell also points out that Olivia is the quiet and stoic type, and Ornis takes a jab at Marbell by saying that she's the loudest person in the entire guild. Marbell ignores his insults, however, and just explains that Olivia gets misunderstood because of how stoic she is. Everyone assumes that she's really mean, but in reality, she is a sweetheart. Marbell has always admired Olivia, and Olivia would always wonder why Marbell was hanging around her. Marbell pointed out that Olivia was the best there is with a sword, so she was hoping to get some tips from her. Marbell would always hope that they could become best friends, but Olivia always reminded her that she preferred to be alone. She only joined Nameless to clear dungeons with, so Marbell thought that they could hit dungeons together. Olivia was surprisingly okay with this, and she even showed up anytime they planned to raid a dungeon together. Yora admits that Olivia seems to be a nice person, but she still refuses to let Marbell come with them. Instead, she tells Marbell to inform the guildmaster that they have arrived at the dungeon. Marbell agrees to do it, but she can't shake this terrible feeling she has. She is sure that Olivia is suffering right now, and she knows this because they are close friends. Marbell is very worried, so she pleads for Alec to find Olivia. Alec says that she can count on him, so she happily runs back to the guild. Before they enter the dungeon, Ornis gives something to Alec and tells him that it's a secret weapon. They all then look to Yora for her to do what she usually does before an adventure. Yora can't believe that they all expect this from her, so they say that they need to be inspired. Yora has no choice but to give in, so she declares that it's time to blow everyone away. They are the lasting period, and she hopes that these days never end. They enter floor 72 of the dungeon, and Ornis wonders what Kracia is doing. They don't have time to waste, but Kracia tells them to keep quiet because she is focusing. She is setting down the teleportation circle she learned from Loki in advance. This way, even if a trap splits their party up, they will be able to reconnect by going through the portals. Ornis is glad to see Kracia using her head again because she was sobbing like a little girl before. His teasing goes a bit too far, however, so Kracia kicks him in the face as she points out that she wasn't crying. Ornis is out cold, shocking the others, and he lands on a teleportation trap. Alec rushes to rescue him, but he just ends up falling into a teleportation trap of his own. Alec realizes that he's in great danger when he finds that he was teleported to a place filled with orcs. They all charge at our hero, so Alec has no choice but to use his Thunderbolt spell. He easily wipes out a handful of the monsters, but one manages to sneak up behind him. It's just about to strike our hero, but Kracia appears to eliminate the beast. She explains that the secret weapon Ornis gave Alec earlier has already come in handy. It's called a Mobius ring, and it's a magical device that comes in pairs. It limits the distance that two people can be apart from one another, so no matter how far away they get teleported, they still won't be separated. Everyone expected that they would get split up in the labyrinth, but Alec didn't think it would happen so soon. Kracia wonders if Alec is worried about Yora, and she's disappointed that he isn't satisfied with being paired with her instead. Alec gets nervous about the question, but Kracia was just teasing him. She knows that he's very reliable, so she tells our boy that she is counting on him. Kracia assures him that he has nothing to worry about because Yora's with Ornis, and fighting is the one thing that he's good for. Kracia can't help but notice, however, that this place they're in stinks. It's almost unbearable, so she says that Alec couldn't have stepped on a worse trap. The two then show incredible teamwork as they take out another beast. Alec is amazed by Kracia's magic blade, so she explains that she's been working hard recently. She couldn't use healing magic on the tank killer floor of the other dungeon, so she has been practicing to make herself useful outside of healing. They eventually wipe out this horde of monsters, and Kracia can tell that Alec has been improving as well. She correctly assumes that Alec has been secretly using support magic, but she says that he can't brag about it until he's as good as Yora. Alec calls this ridiculous, however, as he points out that he will never be as good of a support mage as Yora. Just then, Alec says that the trap he stepped on didn't turn out to be so bad after all. This is because it has brought them to their first sign of Olivia. It's some of her bandages, which means that she should be nearby. Elsewhere, Yora scolds Alec for opening a suspicious-looking door. It was an obvious trap, and now they have to run for their lives. Luckily, Yora comes up with an idea, and she uses a defensive spell called Earth Wall. This wall safely elevates them above all the monsters, so Yora tells Ornis to take out the biggest beast. Yora is glad to see that he's in good shape, but she knows that at times like these, he tends to wear himself out, because he doesn't think about the consequences. She doesn't want to strain him so much, so she decides to keep the physical enhancements to a minimum. The powered up Ornis then cuts right through the horde of monsters, and he deletes the boss from existence. Ornis compliments himself for being in such great shape today, and he tells Yura to lay on even more support magic on him. Yura scolds him, however, because it's not that easy. She can't just buff him at random because it will put a huge strain on his body. To avoid ending his life by accident, she has to buff the optimal body part at the most optimal time with great precision. Ornis ignores that to say that he doesn't want any more compliments. He thinks that Yura should direct all compliments towards Alec because he still needs to regain his confidence. He remembers, however, that Marbell is talking Alec up all the time now, so he'll probably be fine. Of course, Yura hates hearing this, but her anger is interrupted by something shocking. The two have encountered something strange looking, and Yura says that it was the floor boss. There is no sign of magic damage, so this means that someone defeated this terrifying looking floor boss by only using one single sword strike. Yura can only wonder who's capable of doing such a thing, and Ornis explains that there's just one person who could do this. This person's name is Melia Dial, the Blade Master. Nearby, Melia is praised by a mysterious man for a job well done. Melia didn't just destroy the floor boss, he also took care of the S-rank swordswoman Olivia. Olivia is so famous that the mysterious guy even knows her name, but she didn't stand a chance against Melia. Melia explains that he and Olivia know each other, so he knows how she fights. The mysterious man's name is Gloria, and he says that them knowing each other explains a lot. He saw Olivia's horrified face when she saw Melia, so he realizes that she couldn't believe who she was being attacked by. The thing Gloria doesn't understand is why Melia is working with the Shadow Guild if he already knows an S-rank swordswoman. Melia explains that he merely shares the same goal as the Shadow Guild's leadership. His overall wish, however, is very different from theirs. Melia only does whatever it takes to get stronger because he only cares about reaching the apex of his strength. This means that for now, he needs experience to get stronger. The other Shadow Guild members arrive and tell their boss Gloria that there are intruders on floor 72. Gloria assumes that it's the rest of the Nameless party, but they say that it could be another party helping them. Gloria instructs his men to eliminate the lives of the intruders, and the craziest among them crushes something in his mouth. Elsewhere, Alec and Kracia find the injured Olivia. Olivia is glad to see Kracia because she needs her to fix her wounds with her specialty healing magic. Kracia surprisingly refuses because she believes that Olivia will just run off again. Kracia declares that she's here to take Olivia back to the guild, so Olivia turns to Alec for help. Of course, Alec can't use healing magic, so Olivia just calls him useless. Alec explains that Kracia isn't taking Olivia back because she hates her. Kracia's just trying to keep her safe. He reveals that Kracia is normally always so calm, but she was panicking the whole way here because she was worried about Olivia. Kracia is embarrassed about him saying all this, but Olivia already knows. That is why she didn't want Kracia to come to the dungeon. Olivia is determined to accomplish her goal, so she doesn't care if Kracia won't heal her. She simply tells our heroes to not get in her way. She apologizes for not being able to repay her debt to Kracia, and she leaves. Before she does, however, Kracia reveals that this is why she hates sword fighters. The whole idea of Olivia owing her something is dumb, and Kracia can tell that Olivia doesn't know anything about healers. Kracia instructs Alec to stop Olivia from leaving, and she explains that she can't just let Olivia have her way. Kracia has now involved all her friends in the situation, so she demands to know why Olivia came back to the labyrinth. Olivia finally reveals that she came here to settle things. Alec assumes that she has a grudge against the Shadow Guild, but Olivia is insulted by this. She declares that she would never lose to those idiots, and her revenge has nothing to do with the guild or her party. This issue is her problem, and her problem alone. Kracia points out that Marbell has been worried sick about her, and Olivia can't believe that the meddling kid is involved in all this. Olivia can tell that the naive Kracia doesn't seem to understand how Nameless works, so she explains it to her. If she thinks that Nameless likes to play buddy-buddy like their party does, then they are severely mistaken. Nameless is nothing more than a group of people who joined the guild for their own reasons. Olivia's greatest wish in life finally fell in her lap, so she simply reached for it, and that is all. Kracia assumes that this wish has to do with the traitor she mentioned before, and Olivia confirms it. The traitor appeared recently, and Olivia vows to end his life with her own hands. Our heroes are then shocked when Olivia reveals how this person betrayed her. He was her teacher, and he is the man who left Olivia's mother to die. Our heroes have their answer now, so Olivia goes to leave. She only has one last thing to say to them, and that is for them to stay out of her way. Of course, Kracia tries to keep her from putting her life in extreme danger, but things take an even crazier turn. Our heroes end up getting teleported with her, and they find themselves in an incredibly dangerous monster nest. Alec immediately charges in at the monsters, and Kracia takes a moment to heal Olivia. Kracia plans to use teleport to help them escape, but it takes time to prepare the spell. There are also too many monsters for Alec to handle alone, so our heroes will have to rely on Olivia's help. Olivia jumps into the fight and declares that they will work together for now so they can get out of the monster's nest. Alec begins fighting the giant orc, but he isn't able to attack its weak points. The beast simply drives him back, and Alec is amazed when he sees Olivia's incredible abilities. She easily wipes out a group of monsters, but Alec didn't even see her move. Olivia criticizes our hero as she says that he hasn't practiced enough. If he were an S-rank swordsman, the enemies of this level wouldn't catch him off guard. Soon enough, Kracia says that the teleportation circle is ready, but the spell falls apart. She determines that magic can't be used here, which means that there's an anti-magic field in this area. Olivia just jumps right back into the fight, and Alec continues to admire her skill. She's a very quiet fighter, and Alec can't help but notice how she's pretty much the opposite of Ornist. She is cold and sharp like ice, and Olivia really is an S-rank swordsman. Alec refuses to let her underestimate him, so he starts taking out some monsters himself. Alec manages to impress Olivia, so she asks for his name. Our hero introduces himself, but Olivia points out that he hasn't mastered his weapon yet. She commends him for having incredible talent, but she explains that he isn't taking full advantage of it. Olivia gives him some advice by telling him to stop trying to overpower his opponent. His sword should be treated like it's part of his body, so he should let it move as it will, as if they are one. There is seemingly no end to the horde of monsters, so Olivia says that it's a waste of energy to fight them all. Instead, they should find the Magic Eater monster that is preventing them from using magic. Alec agrees, but he points out that one of them is going to have to keep the rest of the monsters at bay. Alec reluctantly says that he will do this job and draw the attention of the monsters. Kracia finds the Magic Eater, but she points out that they'll never be able to reach him with so many monsters in the way. Olivia doesn't waste any time going right to him, and Alec can only call her reckless for rushing in. She still wipes out a ton of monsters, and Alec calls the other ones to remind them that he's their target. He gets all their attention, but Kracia warns that monsters are coming from above as well. Alec must fight against a winged beast now, but this thing is really strong. Alec does his best to push it back, but the beast just keeps coming at him. Alec's job is to draw their attention though, so he makes the monsters chase him. Eventually he's able to get the flying beast to crash into a giant, but Alec is pushed back from the force of the attack. It turns out that the flying beast is actually one of the strongest monsters, as it even tore through the giant. Alec can't help but be impressed, so he tells the giant bird to bring it on. Olivia meanwhile is tearing through the monsters, and we see that the Magic Eater is going around ringing a bell. It notices that someone is coming after him, but there's no time to react, and Olivia immediately sends her blade through his chest. She crushes the Magic Eater's bell, so Kracia finally manages to complete the teleportation spell. Alec is glad to hear that they're ready to go, so he uses his fivefold Thunderbolt spell on the group of giants. Alec's attack easily wipes out all the giants, and Olivia realizes that Alec's true power is his magic. Monsters are beginning to swarm Kracia, so she tells the others to hurry. Time is running out, so Alec tells Olivia to take his hand, and they all finally teleport to safety. Olivia can't help but ask Alec why he didn't tell her that he was really a mage and not a swordsman. Alec simply says that he forgot to mention it, but Olivia is furious. She wonders what kind of mage runs into a horde of monsters with just a sword, and she can't believe how foolish she looked giving him swordsmanship advice. She praised his swordsmanship talent and told him to be one with the sword, so now she's completely embarrassed. Olivia must still thank him though, because if she were alone back there, then she wouldn't have survived. Alec thanks her back and says that he will give her suggestions a try. Alec says that all that matters is that Olivia is safe, but Kracia refuses to agree. She explains that Olivia isn't fit to be fighting monsters right now, no matter how well she's performing. Healing magic isn't perfect, so if Olivia keeps going, her wounds will reopen and she will just get hurt even worse. Kracia just wants to hear more about Olivia's teacher that betrayed her by eliminating her mother, so Olivia explains. She says that when her adventurer mother passed away, she was left all alone in this world. That's when Melia took her in and became her teacher. Melia taught her all there was to know about fighting, and he was the one that told her to be one with her sword. There were always days where Olivia wept for her mother, but she was finally able to be happy again. At times, Melia was like a father to her, and she would cry about her mother in his arms. She grew to trust and admire Melia more than anyone in the world. That is until one day when he told her the truth. They were in a dungeon, and Olivia happily demonstrated to Melia how she easily took out some monsters. Melia was pleased to see her improvement, and he acknowledged that Olivia had grown stronger than he could have ever imagined. Unfortunately, this is when everything took a dark turn. Melia said that it was finally time, and he attacked Olivia. He brought her near death, but he kept her alive. Before her life could end, Melia decided to tell her the truth. Olivia couldn't move her body at all, so Melia whispered into her ear that he was the one that took her mother's life. Olivia was absolutely horrified to hear this from the person that she trusted the most. It's an absolutely wretched tale, as Olivia can hardly tell the story without completely being consumed with rage. She spent her entire life looking up to the man that took her mother's life. She trusted him for years, but he only revealed how it was all a lie, and he simply left her with a horrifying scar on her back. Melia hasn't been seen again since that day, and the scar is all she's left with. Olivia says that Melia is more than just a man who ended her mother's life because he took everything from her. Her trust and her memories, he took it all. All she has now is this scar and nothing else. Olivia is shocked when Alec immediately covers her up and he shares some kind words. He explains that he doesn't care where she learned it from. He thought that the way she fought was beautiful. He knows exactly what it feels like to believe that he has nothing left, but his comrades were the ones that showed him that he was wrong. Olivia says that she has no comrades, but Alec begs to differ. Lorg told him that he was looking to settle a score with someone, and Alec believes that Lorg is trying to avenge her. Kracia knew immediately when she saw Olivia's scarred body at the guild that she had been through some incredible things. Kracia explains that magic can't heal old scars, and it can't change the past. Kracia also doesn't want to get involved in someone else's revenge plot. However, Kracia promises that she can heal whatever wounds Olivia gets from here on. Olivia is touched by their words, so she begins to open up even more. Olivia knew that Lorg and Marbell were trying to help her, but she exclaims that they don't know who they're going up against. They have no clue how scary the Blade Master can be, and Olivia fears that he will take more people from her. Alec acknowledges this fear, so he declares that they will simply put an end to this entire situation. Olivia is caught off guard by his confidence, so Alec explains that they will fight in Lord and Marbell's place. Olivia can't hold back her tears, so Kracia assures her that everything will be okay. Elsewhere, we see that Ornist is fed up with the dungeon. There are traps everywhere, so he can only wonder what's wrong with this place. Yora is quick to point out that 90% of their problems come from Ornist because he keeps touching random stuff. Yora is still worried about that floor boss they saw because whatever eliminated it is incredibly dangerous. Ornist still believes that it was the Blade Master, so he says that if he's still here, then he's probably on the last floor. Yora is worried about their friends, but Ornist tells her to calm down. He assumes that Olivia will go after Melia, but he is sure that Alec and Kracia won't. Just then, Ornist tells Yora to keep quiet as he hears something. It's the crazy guy from earlier, and he continues to eat dungeon cores. This guy is a monster as he explains that the cores they have taken from Fizzel's idiot adventurers are especially delicious. Just then, our heroes walk right out in front of them, and Yora questions if they were the ones that attacked Olivia. Ornist always assumed that the ones who did it would be crazy, but eating cores is on a whole nother level of insanity. The crazy guy named Ryota calls himself lucky because the intruders they were looking for just appeared before them. He instructs his group to attack them, but they quickly find themselves being defeated by our heroes. Ornist mocks Ryota as he points out that eating those dungeon cores didn't make him one bit stronger. Ornist wants to know what they're after, and he assumes that they want the dungeon core on the last floor. Ryota refuses to give him any answers, but Yora chokes him with her seal spell. Ryota has no choice but to give in, so he admits that their boss told them to steal the core on the last floor. Yora wants to know what their relation is to the Blade Master, so Ryota explains everything. He says that Melia is amazing because he took down Olivia and the floor boss all by himself. Ornist points out that these guys aren't the ones in charge, and they're much more dangerous people in this dungeon. He wants to reunite with Alec and the others so they can head back to the guild. Yora agrees with him, so Ornist tells the bad guys that they're going to rot in jail. Ryota only laughs, however, and he reminds Ornist about what he said. Ornist told him that eating the cores didn't make him stronger, but he has no clue how wrong he was. Just then, Yora tells Ornist to keep quiet as she hears something strange. The entire dungeon begins to shake, and Ryota begins to laugh again. He explains that the answer to what's happening is simple. The fastest way to absorb a dungeon core's power is to eat it. The dungeon begins to shake even more now, and a furious power bursts out of Ryota's body. This power is incredibly unstable, and it even sends Ryota's comrades into a dark abyss. Ryota is able to free himself, and he instantly rushes to capture Yora. He laughs like a psychopath again, as he calls himself lucky. He was after Yora all along, and he can't believe that he got what he was after in a place like this. Ornis immediately goes after them, but Ryota is not afraid, and he actually encourages Ornis to follow them. He declares that they can go straight to floor 73 together. It's the bottom of the dungeon, and there they can enjoy themselves as they fight over the core. Elsewhere, Alec tells Olivia his backstory. He learned the basics of magic as a kid after he lost his mother to a plague. His father was always busy with work, so magic became his hobby. He told Olivia about his days as a court magician, but she points out that Alec makes a better adventurer anyway. They arrive at the place they were supposed to meet up if they got separated, but Yora and Ornis are not here. Just then they feel a breeze, and following it reveals a giant hole in the ground. This wasn't here before, so it must be new, but Alec is shocked by something else. In dungeons, the walls and floors that lead to the lower levels are magically reinforced. Whatever broke through the floor must be incredibly powerful. Olivia doesn't want to waste any more time, so she rushes in. On the way down, she finds a hat, and Alec is horrified when he realizes that it belongs to Yora. Elsewhere, Ryota brings Yora to his boss. Gloria introduces himself to her, and he apologizes for Ryota's rude behavior. Yora isn't interested in getting to know him, and she demands to know what he wants with her. Gloria explains that while he is a gentleman, he is also not a fool, so he won't be telling her his plan. Yora points out that Gloria seems to know a lot about her, so it's only right that she know more about him. Gloria is very intrigued by her, and he laughs because she is like a concerned little animal. He's eager to see how long she can keep up the tough girl act, but Melia tells Gloria to stop. Melia declares that he doesn't have time to waste on stupid games, so Gloria backs off and says that he was just joking. Yora can immediately tell by his immense presence that this man is the Blade Master Melia. Melia doesn't say much, but he reveals that something is coming. This person is Ornis, and he comes crashing in to rescue Yora. Ornis instructs his spear to pierce and stab, and he absolutely crushes Ryota. Gloria, however, blocks his attack, and Ornis is caught off guard by Gloria's use of a mana sword. Gloria instructs Ryota to get up already, and Ryota is furious. Ornis came out of nowhere, and Ryota was only able to survive because of the cores he was eating. Ryota notices that Yora is wearing a Morbius ring, which is what led Ornis here, so he removes it from her finger. Ornis demands to know why they knew Yora's name, and he also wants to know why they are targeting her. Gloria simply ignores him, and he declares that it's time for them to go to work. Ryota heeds his boss's instructions, so he knocks Yora out and tells Melia to continue with their plan. Ornis becomes furious after seeing this, and he gives them all a warning. If they lay a finger on Yora, then he will slice them into pieces and end their lives slowly. Unfortunately, the two guys just rush off, and Ornis is held back by Gloria. Gloria declares that he's one of the Shadow Guild's most famous members, so Ornis will have no choice but to fight him. He also tells Ornis that he shouldn't get any funny idea about taking him down fast so he can rescue Yora. They begin to fight, and Ornis can immediately tell that Gloria's weapon is no artifact. There is something very strange about it, but it's still no match for his spear. Ornis manages to destroy the blade, and he quickly impales Gloria. Gloria screams in agony as the pain is unbearable, and he tells Ornis that he has really done it now. Gloria begins to shake as he can only watch his own blood pour out of him, and he curses Melia. He says that the useless Blade Master just stands around all day and tries to tell him what to do. Gloria begins to lose his mind, and his voice even changes as he vows to end everyone's lives. However, he quickly stops himself as he apologizes, and he reminds himself to calm down. His voice changes back to normal, and he apologizes once more for not handling stress well. Gloria then takes a deep breath, and he professes his belief to a great demon. He calls out to this demon and instructs it to devour his blood. He even offers his flesh to it and allows it to consume all that he has. Ornis doesn't understand what's happening, and he can only watch as something begins to happen to Gloria's blood. Gloria continues his ritual, and Ornis is shocked when Gloria's blood returns to his body, and he is healed. There is something really evil going on here, and Gloria declares that he is known as Gloria the Wrathful. He can only apologize to Ornis, as he will be taking his life now. Ornis realizes that Gloria just used his blood to heal himself and repair his sword. This guy is using magic that Ornis has never seen before, but he has no fear. He simply tells Gloria that it's time to see how many holes he has to put in him before he stops being alive. Ornis then charges forward, piercing Gloria several times, but he's stunned when Gloria seems unaffected. Gloria lets out a smile as he says that this is the problem with morons who cannot grasp how things work. As he pulls Ornis' spear out of his chest, Gloria declares that no amount of his attacks will ever end his life. Gloria's blood returns to him once again, and he says that not even cutting his head off will work. He finally reveals that this is because of his heretic spell called Burning Blood. The more blood he sheds and the worse he is hurt, the stronger he becomes. Gloria announces that Ornis just swinging his spear around won't be enough to defeat him, and he says that talk is cheap. Gloria shows his power next as he unleashes an attack called Bloody Haze, and it nearly slices Ornis in half. Ornis must continue to dodge for his life as he realizes that Gloria is a lot stronger now. Gloria proves to be incredibly dangerous as he's able to summon all sorts of weapons. His Bloody Rose ability brings forth a whip-like weapon, and he uses it to take hold of Ornis. Ornis has no way to defend himself now, so Gloria slams him into the ground with all his force. Ornis can no longer move after getting his entire body crushed, and Gloria says that he tried to warn him. Gloria had a lot of pent-up frustration, but he credits Ornis for making a good punching bag. Gloria laughs like a psychopath as he says that it's time to end Ornis' life, but the laughing quickly stops when Ornis stands back up. Ornis has heard enough out of this guy, and he says that Gloria will be the one to lose his life instead. Ornis instructs Almaretska to return to him, but it's a trick, and Ornis sends his blade flying at Gloria. Gloria is impressed because that attack nearly hit him, but Gloria is no fool. He says that he saw that attack coming from a mile away, but he doesn't see what's coming next. Ornis simply punches him right in the face with all his might, and Gloria is stunned by that amount of damage. A look back to 6 years ago at the academy reveals a bit more about Ornis' fighting style. He was getting ready to spar with Alec, but Alec wondered if Ornis really wanted to do something. Ornis said that Alec could use his magic blade in their duel, while Ornis was just going to use his usual practice spear. Ornis confidently told Alec to just get on with the fight because he was not intimidated by any sword, even one made of magic. To further prove his point, he stated that he was a genius who never lost a duel since entering the academy. Alec was just as confident as he said that he would have to be the first to defeat him. The two friends then battled it out, and Ornis was surprised because Alec was able to push him back. The girls watched them, and Yora pointed out that Alec has always been good at whatever he set his mind to. Their duel was pretty evenly matched, but Krasia thought that Ornis' practice weapon would prove to be too much of a handicap. Yora wondered if this meant that Ornis would lose for the first time ever, but Krasia knew better. She was very confident that Ornis would still win, but it was simply because Ornis is a fool. Ornis eventually lost his spear as it slipped out of his hand, but Alec was shocked because Ornis wasn't ready to give up. The two guys charged at each other once more, but the headmaster stepped in to stop them. She was filled with rage because she couldn't believe that the two of them were at it again. Alec was disappointed after losing the match, but Ornis pointed out that it didn't actually end. He said that they were both going strong towards the end, but Alec didn't think so. Alec knew that Ornis let his spear go on purpose to throw him off, and Alec wasn't going to be able to block his next attack. He explained that spells like Magic Blade are constantly draining the user's magic, and they exhaust the user. That is why Ornis gave himself an opening by distracting Alec so he couldn't use his magic properly. Alec said that that was a pretty smart thing for him to do, and Ornis called himself a genius. Back to the present, Ornis decides to let Gloria in on a little secret. He unleashes a flurry of punches on his opponent, and he explains that Alec is a genius when it comes to offensive magic. Yora is a support magic genius, and Krasia is a healing genius. Ornis, on the other hand, concedes that he can't even use a single spell. Not even a bit of support magic or healing magic. Ornis absolutely pummels Gloria with his punches, and he wants Gloria to know one thing. He might not know a single thing about magic, but Ornis says that he's a genius when it comes to combat. Ornis absolutely crushes Gloria, and he mocks the ability he calls Burning Blood. It makes Gloria stronger the more he bleeds, so Ornis declares that he will just stop poking holes in him. His new plan is to just punch Gloria over and over again until he stops breathing. Gloria surprisingly just laughs at this, and he says that this is all just talk. Gloria declares that he doesn't care what Ornis thinks about magic, and he summons blades from his hands. He plunges these blades into himself, and he declares that he will show Ornis what real magic looks like. Gloria then makes blood gush out of his body, and he activates a huge spell. He makes something come out of a magic circle, and he calls it Anzus. This thing flies into the magic circle on the ceiling, and the attack intensifies. The force of the wind swirling around creates a twister, and Ornis is overwhelmed by this power. Back at the guild, Levi can't understand how Lorg is able to eat so many sweets this early in the morning. Lorg fires back by pointing out that Levi is always drinking at this time, so they agree to stop insulting each other. Levi then brings up Alec because he can't believe that Lorg chose him to join the raid. Lorg doesn't see the problem because Alec's party just got promoted to S rank. That isn't all, as Lorg reveals that he heard the rumors about Alec being the legendary 5-colored magician who defeated the Hydra. It's pretty crazy that there is a mage that can use 5 elements at once, so Lorg points out that anyone would want to make friends with him. Lorg is especially interested, but that's only if the rumors about Alec are actually true. As for Levi, he has his doubts about this legend. He doesn't buy all the talk about Alec's party setting the floor 68 record in the dungeon of Galdana. However, he knows Yora and her friends well, so there's a possibility that it could be true. Just then Marbella arrives, and she urgently tells Levi about what happened. Olivia ran away from the clinic and went into the labyrinth. She tells him not to worry too much though, because Alec and the others went after her. Levi loses his mind because everyone just keeps running off and doing their own thing. This whole mess is ruining his plan to wait for the right moment so he can ambush the Shadow Guild. There are no options now, so he decides that they will have to do something. However, there's still something bothering him. He says that as far as he knows, Alec can only use fire and lightning magic, but he wants to hear what Marbell knows about him. Marbell confirms that when it comes to offensive magic, those 2 types are all Alec has. This is really disappointing to Lorg, because this means that the so-called 5-colored magician can only use 2 elements, and the rumors were wrong. Levi concludes that at the very least, Alec is unable to use 5 elements at one time. This could mean that Alec lost the ability for some reason, or he might be hiding it. None of that really matters now though, so Levi declares that they have to go help them. He says that if his intuition is right, the labyrinth is currently a den full of all kinds of monsters. There's no telling what Alec and his friends will run into, so Levi just wishes that they stay alive. Back in the labyrinth, we see that Ornis is still face to face with Gloria's attack. Ornis realizes that he is powerless against it, and there's no hope of him escaping. However, just before the attack ends his life, Alec arrives to use Reflect on it. The attack flies right back at Gloria and does an insane amount of damage. Ornis couldn't be happier to see his old friend, and he credits Alec for having incredible timing. The girls arrive as well, and everyone's relieved to be back together again. Ornis declares that the battle is over, so he tells Gloria to perish in his own flames. Everyone is shocked, however, when they see that Gloria somehow survived. Olivia is no stranger to Gloria's burning blood spell, so she says that they will have to work together in order to defeat him. Ornis has bad news for them, as he explains that Yora was taken by some guy that eats dungeon cores. Olivia is of course furious when Ornis reveals that the Blade Master was with them. Kracia wonders what the Shadow Guild wants with Yora, but Ornis doesn't know. All he does know is that they knew her name beforehand, which means that they were definitely targeting her. Ornis explains that they're headed for the dungeon core right now, so he tells everyone that they should go after them. Ornis declares that he will handle Gloria himself, but Kracia knocks him over the head. This is actually her just healing him, and she also takes his bracelet. She instructs Alec to stay with Ornis to fight Gloria, while the girls go after Yora. Gloria interrupts them, as he has grown tired of this entire situation. He says that they just keep crawling out of the shadows like insects, and he uses another terrifying spell. Alec simply reflects the attack back at him, and the girls use the smoke to run past Gloria. Gloria tells Alec to stop using his reflect spell, but Alec will only agree if Gloria stops using his magic. The guys all prepare for round 2, and Gloria curses them all. His body begins to fail, and Ornis compliments Alec for really doing a number on him. Reflect really works great against spellcasters, and no matter how tough Gloria is, magic is still magic. Ornis is sure that if they can keep the pressure up, then Gloria is doomed when he runs out of power. Gloria, on the other hand, doesn't seem very worried, and he prepares to do something devious. Elsewhere in the dungeon, Levi explains that there's a certain group within the Shadow Guild that worships demons. Lorg knows about this as well, so he tells the others to be wary of anyone with seals on their body. They are leaders called title bearers, and they are the most dangerous of all. They are really tough, but what really makes them dangerous is that they will sacrifice everything to become stronger. Back with Gloria, we see that he's breathing heavily in preparation for what he's about to do. He activates his sorcery seal and calls forth a being known as Zorg. Gloria's clothes get torn apart as his muscles begin to burst, and he turns into some kind of beast. Gloria instantly appears in front of Ornis, and he bites down on his neck. Alec is able to break them apart, but he is shocked when his attacks aren't landing. Gloria is moving way too fast now, and not even Alec's thunderbolts can keep up with him. Gloria prepares to attack again, but this time he's the one to be shocked as a giant magic circle appears above him. Alec has decided that if aiming doesn't work, then he will just attack the entire area. He unleashes a massive thunder spell, and Gloria has no way to escape it. He screams in agony as the thunderbolts tear him apart, and Alec wonders if he really got him. Gloria lets out a smile, however, as his own blood surrounds him, and he says that every attack is futile. The burning blood spell can even turn his blood into mana, so he can use it as much as he wants. He says that with Alec's pitiful damage, Alec could keep at it for his entire life and still not drain him of his mana. If Gloria ever runs low, he will always be able to refill his mana with his blood, just like he's doing now. He declares that as long as he doesn't run out of blood, no attack could ever end his life. Gloria then summons a pair of blades, and Alec must protect himself from Gloria's onslaught. Gloria is relentless though, and Alec's shield eventually falls apart. Gloria is shocked though when he loses track of Ornist, and Ornist appears behind him. Gloria is an absolute beast though, and he manages to fight back. Ornist is now the one caught off guard because Gloria is just too fast. There is no way he can keep up, and Gloria is glad to see that Ornist is finally starting to understand. Gloria says that Ornist was never really a genius in combat, and only a naive little kid would say something like that. He explains that this world is filled with all sorts of monsters that he doesn't even know about, and Ornist is just a nameless wimp. Gloria absolutely dominates the fight, and he gets ready to show Ornist why they call him Gloria the Wrathful. He explains that not many people in the Shadow Guild can use sorcery seals, and his resolve is incomparable. The reason he has become a title bearer is because he has the metal to surpass his limits. Alec prepares to help Ornist, but Gloria tells him not to move an inch. Gloria points out that he can end Ornist's life anytime he wants, so he tells Alec to just sit back and watch. Gloria was very irritated by them, so he says that this is what they get for wasting his time. He calls them all idiots, but Ornist uses this moment to plunge his spear into Gloria. Ornist declares that he isn't an idiot, and he reminds Gloria that he's a genius. Ornist then plunges his spear even deeper, and a flame erupts from the blade. A look into the past reveals a time when Ornist was a child. He was sparring against some other kid, but he hated how relaxed the kid looked when they were fighting. Ornist could never beat him, and his friend wondered how many times Ornist had lost to him. The kid reminded Ornist that he could never win, and he called himself a genius. Ornist was determined to surpass him, so he practiced every single day. He endured hours and hours of training every single day, and he was relentless with his pursuit to become stronger. He hated how the kid called himself a genius, and Ornist said it was embarrassing. One night, Ornist hit himself in the head while training, and his friend laughed at him. It turns out that the kid enjoyed watching Ornist's progress, but he just didn't admit it. One night, Ornist was horrified after learning that his friend had become very sick. The poor kid was coughing up blood, and Ornist didn't know how to handle the situation. In anger, he declared that he wouldn't let his archenemy run away with the win. The kid knew what was coming though, so he told Ornist that he wouldn't run away with the win, and Ornist could just have it. There was no time left, so he told Ornist that he wins, and he's the real genius. Ornist couldn't bear to see his powerful opponent this way, so he let out a cry while running in the rain. Back to the present, Ornist once again pierces Gloria, and his spear is engulfed in flames. Ornist then declares that he's a genius, and he always will be. Elsewhere, the girls run as fast as they can, and Kreischer reveals that their targets are close. Nearby, Ryota celebrates because they have finally arrived at their destination. Melia, on the other hand, is much more serious as he thinks about how they have reached the end of the labyrinth. The door in front of them leads to the deepest part of the dungeon, and it begins to open. Inside is the absolute lowest point, and the two men climb up some stairs. At the top, they find the dungeon core that this entire mission has been about. Ryota couldn't be happier as he finally gets his hands on it, but Melia doesn't share his sentiment. Back with our heroes, Gloria is shocked by Ornist's use of fire. Ornist tells Alec that he will be needing more of that, so Gloria realizes what just happened. It turns out that Alec used his ignition spell to buff Ornist earlier. Alec does it again now to cover Ornist in his flames. Ornist is ready for battle, so he introduces a new flame version of his Elmeretstica spear. Gloria can't believe that Alec used attack magic on his own ally, but there's no time to be shocked. Ornist unleashes a barrage of attacks, and he does major damage. He declares that whether it's blood or sweat, he will burn it all up with his flame spear. Alec prepares to cast another fire spell, but Gloria thinks he's crazy. He points out that Alec is going to burn his ally alive while trying to defeat him, but Ornist tells him to quiet down. Ornist encourages Alec to keep going, so Alec consumes him with his flames again. Ornist remembers that Gloria said he was a title bearer, but he says that titles don't mean anything to them. Gloria declares that he could never lose to a nameless wimp like him, but Ornis still takes him down. Ornis is actually glad that Gloria is so powerful, because if he wins against him, then he will be one step closer to his goal. Ornis has been living with a chip on his shoulder for the longest time, because he had to give up on beating his rival that one faithful day. His rival passing away meant that he would never get to surpass the person he always looked up to. Ornis continues his relentless attack, and he begins to tear Gloria apart. He then declares that he has finally made his decision after what happened that day. Ornis vows to show the strength of the man he could never beat through his victories. Ornis once again declares that he's a genius, and it's because he has to be. His next attack is the strongest yet, and it absolutely destroys Gloria. Gloria's body is torn to pieces, but Ornis tells him not to be sad because he lost to Lasting Period. Ornis thanks Gloria because he will be another page in the story of their legend. Back by the dungeon core, Ryota greets Yora after she wakes up. Ryota explains that it's too late for the heroes to stop them because they already have the dungeon core. He has a good laugh because adventurers worked so hard to get these, but he was able to swipe it so easily. Ryota's having a really good time mocking her, but he is shocked when Melia slices him open. Melia simply explains that he's tired of listening to Ryota, and Ryota collapses to the ground. Gloria says that he has the dungeon core now, so he doesn't need the Shadow Guild. Melia calls Yora the Seeker while telling her to get up, but she has no idea what a Seeker is. He explains that as a Seeker, Yora should be able to see something called Eden, but Yora still doesn't understand. Melia then reveals that Eden is the land where dungeon cores grant wishes. Yora has never heard of dungeon cores being able to grant wishes, so she doesn't believe him. She tries to explain that this has nothing to do with her, so she tells him to let her go. Ryota interrupts them as he's still alive, and he says that Melia will never get away with betraying the Shadow Guild. Melia lets out a smile as he explains that that's exactly what he wants. He only cares about getting stronger, and for that he needs combat experience. Melia ends Ryota's life for good, and he explains what role the Shadow Guild will play. It's not easy for Melia to find worthy opponents, especially since people have dubbed him the Blade Master. That is why he realized that if he can't find enemies, he would just have to make them himself. Melia's relentless need to become stronger has caused him to betray as many people as possible. This way they would work hard to improve themselves and become a real challenge for him. The perfect example is Olivia, and we see that she has found Melia. Melia happily greets her, and he determines that she wasn't smart enough to just stay away from the dungeon. Yora's happy to see Olivia and Kracia, so she wonders what Melia plans to do. She points out that she has even more friends coming for her, so she tells Melia that this is his last chance to run away. Melia shows no interest in running, as he wonders if she really thought that that would make him flee. Melia somehow knows Alec's full name, so Yora wonders how this guy knows so much about him. Melia doesn't explain anything, as he's just excited to hear that Alec is coming to end his life. Melia is eager to see what kind of challenge Alec will bring, and he calls Alec the son of Arya Ygritte. Back with our hero, Ornis explains that he can't fight anymore. Alec tells him not to worry though, because he will save Yora. Ornis heals himself a bit, and he explains to Alec that the Blade Master won't go down easy. He knows this because the floor boss's corpse was radiating some strange kind of bloodlust after Melia eliminated it. That isn't all, as he remembers a time when the headmaster at the academy warned him about the Blade Master. She said that it would be nearly impossible for him to ever encounter the Blade Master, but if he did, he would have to stay away from him at all costs. Ornis knows that he isn't the best person to say what he's about to say, but he still tells Alec not to take any dumb risks. Alec understands, so he tells Ornis to just wait for him. He will bring Yora, Kracia, and Olivia back, and they will all be together again soon. Alec teleports himself near them, but Ornis can only laugh because Alec didn't really answer him. Back with the others, Olivia charges right at Melia. Melia encourages her to attack quickly because they don't have much time to play. Olivia is filled with rage, so she doesn't even hear a word he says, and she vows to make Melia pay with his life for ending her mother. Surprisingly, Olivia is somehow able to suppress her fury, as she reveals that this was just a trick. Her real goal was to rescue Yora, and she successfully manages to get her to safety. Olivia then signals to Kracia, who fires her arrow rain attack. Melia is no chump though, so he blocks all her arrows with his cloak. Melia seems displeased by what they have done, and Yora uses her bind spell to hold him in place. Kracia then says that he let them take Yora back, the core of their attack plan, way too easily. They knew that they needed Yora to defeat him, so that is why they prioritized getting her. Yora then uses her sevenfold enchantment in front of Kracia's bow to power up her next attack. Kracia uses Phoenix Arrow this time, and this attack is clearly way more powerful. Melia seemingly has no way to defend himself, but this crazy guy still smiles. He easily breaks free from Yora's chains, and he obliterates Kracia's Phoenix with one attack. Kracia is stunned after seeing him cut right through her magic, because it was a full power attack with Yora's support magic on top of it. Olivia rushes in for a sneak attack, but she is concerned. Things aren't looking good, because it's clear that Melia knew what their plan was. He knew that they needed Yora to amplify their attacks, but he still just let him do it. Melia let them use their most powerful magic so that he could see for himself whether they were weak or strong. This is the true Blade Master Melia, the only person the guild has ever allowed to form a solo S-rank party. Olivia desperately tries to end his life with her next attack, but she is stunned when he stops her without even looking. Melia is disappointed because he thought that she had given up on ending his life. Olivia says that he couldn't be more wrong because she won't let anyone else take his head. It's his turn to feel the pain she felt that day, and it will be at her hands. She wants him to feel the same despair and rage that she suffered after losing everything. Olivia charges in again, but she stops in her tracks when Melia talks about the people she has met. He noticed that Olivia's wounds were healed very quickly, so he says that she must have found a talented healer. It's clear to him that Olivia has found some good friends. He says that the support magic and attack they used earlier all showed a promising future. This isn't really a compliment though, as Melia says that it's only good for a bunch of kids playing pretend. In reality, he's disappointed by Olivia's weakness. This really affects Olivia, and he wonders if that's all she really learned from him. This pathetic fantasy she has that she could beat him if she had friends. Melia really takes pleasure in tormenting her, as he says that he will teach her lesson by ending her life. Just then, Olivia has a flashback to a time when she was crying. Melia wondered if she had gotten into another fight, so she explained that someone made fun of her mother. They said that she had to have been a weak adventurer for her to lose her life in a dungeon. To make it worse, they said that they wouldn't play with Olivia because she was adopted. Olivia cried because she felt alone, but Melia explained that loneliness makes a person stronger. By knowing loneliness, Melia assured Olivia that she would become stronger than anyone. Stronger than her bullies, and maybe even stronger than him. Olivia wanted to become stronger just like her mom and Melia, so she used her anger and loneliness as fuel. Now Olivia tells herself not to be intimidated by Melia, and she demands for herself to fight him. Olivia continues to battle Melia, and she points out how laughable it is for him to want to teach her a lesson. It's like he's still pretending to be her father, but she says that he will never understand how she feels. After his betrayal, all she could ever rely on was her sword. She just kept swinging it, and the next thing she knew, she was S-rank. Olivia never strayed from her goal to get revenge, and it has led to this very moment. Unfortunately, Melia is just too powerful, so he absolutely dominates her in battle. Kracia wants to help her, but Yora reminds her that she needs to stay back. She says that Kracia has no chance of defeating Melia, but Kracia doesn't care. She still fires an arrow at him, but of course Melia easily stops it. Melia shocks her by calling her weak, and he points out that Kracia's attack was even weaker than the first one. Melia reminds Olivia that loneliness makes a person strong, so the opposite is also true. Having friends will make a person weak, and he plans to demonstrate that as he heads towards the girls. Olivia tries to stop him, but he just tells her to watch and learn how beautiful loneliness is. Melia gets in his attack stance, so Olivia desperately tells the girls to run for their lives. Unfortunately, there's no time to run, as Melia unleashes his attack, and the girls are consumed by it. Just then, we see that Kracia is shocked, and Olivia is standing in front of the girls. It turns out that Olivia acted fast enough to block Melia's attack just in time. Unfortunately, she pays dearly for this sacrifice, and Kracia must catch her before she falls to the ground. Kracia desperately tells her to wait while she heals her, but Olivia's life is fading quickly. Olivia tries to say that she held out just long enough to save them, but Kracia tells her not to speak because she needs to conserve her energy. Olivia knows that she doesn't have long though, so she admits that Melia is right. She is weak, but she doesn't care. If being strong means going back to being alone, then she would rather be weak. She declares that if Yora and Kracia are safe, then all hope is not lost. Olivia's life begins to fade, so she says that the rest is in the hands of the mage. This mage turns out to be Alec, as we see that he's appeared above Melia. Olivia's condition gets worse, and Alec angrily yells out at the Blade Master. The two of them collide, but Melia's demeanor doesn't change at all. He is once again excited, and he wonders if Alec's last name is Ygritte. Yora shows concern for Alec as he gets pushed away, but Alec tells her to just take care of Olivia. He charges back into the fight, but Melia doesn't even break a sweat when fighting him. Alec is furious though, as he points out that Melia should know better than anyone how much Olivia trusted him. Alec can only wonder what's wrong with Melia and why he's making Olivia suffer so much. Melia simply explains that if Olivia had been a bit weaker, then she wouldn't have been hurt at his hands so many times. Alec is triggered by this, so he charges at Melia, but Melia just dodges him. Melia knows that Alec is a mage, so he wonders how long he plans on fighting him with just a sword. He tells Alec to stop underestimating him because it will cost him his life. Melia declares that there's no need for little tricks, so Alec should just use his best spells against him. Alec doesn't need to be told twice, as he prepares an offensive spell. He angrily says that Melia can have as much magic as he wants, and he summons his lightning dragon, called Vajra. Alec sends the dragon right at Melia, but everyone watches in shock, as Melia isn't immediately wiped out by it. It only gets worse, as Melia even begins to push the spell back. Alec is then at a complete loss for words, as Melia slices right through Alec's dragon. Melia notices that he's bleeding, so he says that Alec's attack was not bad. He corrects himself though, and says that the attack was more than not bad, it was perfect. Melia declares that the attack was perfect, and Alec is the perfect adventurer. However, he also says that Alec is not a good magician. This is because he can't feel any desire to end a life in Alec's magic. Melia has an idea on how he can get Alec to have this murderous intent, so he looks at Yora. Alec isn't having any of it though, so he tells Melia to stop looking at Yora. He declares that if Melia wants to see his true power, then he will gladly show him. Yora becomes very concerned, as she fears that Alec is going to use something. It's clear that Alec is planning to do what Yora fears the most, and he thinks about how Ornist told him not to take any dumb risks. Alec can only apologize to Ornist, and he prepares his next ability. Yora can't believe that he's really going to do it, and Alec recites an incantation in his mind. He thinks about the source of his magic, which is the mana coursing through his entire body, and he tells himself to let it all flow out. Yora knows just how dangerous this is, so she tells Kracia that they have to stop Alec. Kracia knows it as well, but she points out that there's no stopping him. As Alec brings forth all of his mana, he wonders if Melia knows about original spells. Alec explains that he knew from the start that he couldn't beat Melia in a straight-up fight. It never mattered though, because Alec was never going to let Melia have Yora. He vows to stop Melia no matter what, so he has decided to show him his best spell. Alec's body then bursts with power as he activates his limit break. Melia is actually surprised by this for a few reasons. Even if someone came up with such a crazy idea like this, he would never think that someone would be stupid enough to actually do it. It's impossible for anyone to replenish their mana externally. However, if the person empties their body of mana, they can draw it in from the outside. It's incredibly risky, but if done correctly, the user can draw in tons of mana. Yora knows Alec's limit break very well, and she reveals that it's original magic that only Alec can cast. To activate it, Alec keeps dumping out his mana until he's empty. Then this allows him to take in mana from the surroundings at an incredible rate. Now that he's free from his elemental constraints, Alec has the ability to use all elements. Alec makes the land transform, the thunder roar, the wind blow, the flames erupt, and the ice expand. Those are all the elements, and Alec can use them all. Alec gets ready for his final attack, which will be a 5-element combination offensive spell. All the elements meet at his wand, and Alec prepares to use his 5-colored release. Yora explains that mana is like blood. If someone else is of a different type, absorbing their mana will only poison you. However, unlike blood types, there are tens of thousands of types of mana. This means that there's no real way to get mana externally, and you can only generate it from within. This was widely understood to be an undeniable fact, that is, until a certain day came along. A look into the past shows Ernest studying the Floor 68 boss in the Capital Dungeon. It was the Hydra, and Ernest learned that each of its 5 heads had a different element. The only way to defeat the Hydra was to attack each of its heads with their opposing elements at the exact same time. Ornis was furious after reading this, because they finally found some records on how to fight the Hydra, but it was telling them to do something impossible. Just being able to use that many elements is rare, but using them all at the same time was unheard of. Yora said that Alec could use fire and lightning, so the rest of them would have to split earth, water, and wind between them. Kracia then volunteered to study wind magic because she had an aptitude for it. Yora said that she could use earth and water magic, but couldn't really do attack spells with them. Ornis was well aware of his limits, so he told the others not to expect him to cast any spells. Kracia told him to be more confident, but he pointed out that she wouldn't have time to use attack spells because she would be busy healing everyone. The two began to argue, so Kracia settled the argument with a bit of wind magic. While they were being told to keep quiet in the library, Alec was busy thinking of a solution. Alec then surprised everyone when he started to think about how mana is actually everywhere, not just inside him. At the academy and in the dungeon, mana can be found in abundance. To help him explain it to the others, Alec came up with a metaphor. He imagined that there was a vessel inside of him that holds mana, and normally it only has a tap for letting mana out. However, if he could add a tap that lets mana in, he could use all the mana around him. He would be able to use it however he wanted, and it would be almost infinite. Alec was really excited by the idea, but Yora had concerns. Even if Alec could use external mana, it would only poison him if it was the wrong type of mana. This was common knowledge because the mana a person has inside of them will reject mana from the outside. Alec always questioned the norm though, as he pointed out that mana isn't poisonous, his body just thinks it is. Yora was sure that there would still be complications, but Ornis was just upset because he couldn't understand what they were talking about. Yora said that it might work with the exact same type of mana that Alec possesses, but the odds of that happening are worse than 1 in 10,000. It was obviously very risky, and Alec would be betting with his life if he tried to do this in battle. Alec's mind was already turning though, so he decided to try and learn it. Kracia pointed out that this was just another one of Alec's crazy ideas, but Yora said that this is why Alec is their ace magician. Even Ornis said that when Alec says he's going to do something, it's best for them to support him. Yora then said that every magician knows that you can't take in mana from the outside. However, knowing Alec, he would find a way to prove everyone wrong. Back to the present, we see that Alec is doing just that. Alec is using original magic that only he can cast, and it's allowing him to go beyond the elements. He can use them all, so he casts his 5-element combination offensive spell called the 5-colored release. Melee is no pushover, so he maneuvers his way through all of Alec's elements, but Alec is just getting started. He uses an incredibly powerful wind attack, and Melee is shocked after it strikes him. The others are really excited because this is the first time that someone actually managed to do damage to Melia. Melia was severely injured from that attack, so Alec prepares another spell. It's another wind attack, and this thing surrounds Melia. Alec seems to be dominating the fight, but for some reason Melia keeps laughing. Alec adds some lightning to the wind magic, but Melia uses his blades to rip the twister apart. Melia declares that this is what he wants, so he tells Alec to keep attacking. As he charges at our hero, Melia explains that only by spending his every moment on the brink of death can he truly feel alive. Melia chases these moments because there's no point in living otherwise. Even as one of his swords breaks in half, Melia still feels this way. He must constantly fight people who are capable of ending his life because those are the only battles that will make him stronger. Alec has proven himself to be one of those people, so Melia has decided to show him all the power he has. Alec is then stunned when Melia refers to our hero as Eldis's apprentice. Alec demands to know how Melia knows about that, so Melia reveals that he knows a good bit about Eldis. He knows that Alec is still searching for him, but Melia doesn't recommend that he continue his search. He says that it might be okay if someone else does, but Alec definitely shouldn't. By Alec's reaction, Melia can tell that Eldis didn't really tell Alec the truth. Nothing about what was happening, and definitely nothing about how Alec's mother died. Melia wonders what story Alec was fed about her death, and he assumes that he was told that she died in a plague. Melia questions how much Alec really knows about his mother, because there's no way that a mere plague could bring down someone like her. Alec is horrified by what all this means, but Melia is done explaining. Alec demands for Melia to say what he knows, but Melia just tells him that he will find out the truth himself one day. Melia can't even imagine what Alec will do when he finds out, so he tells Alec that at least he has something to look forward to. Alec still wants answers, but Melia reiterates that the talking is over. Alec is then shocked when Melia reveals the dungeon core that he has. He uses the core on himself, and the sky lights up from the power flowing out of Melia's body. This power is immeasurable, and when everything finally settles, Melia tells Alec to show him what comes next. Melia assumes that Alec's limit break won't last much longer, so he tells our hero to hurry up and fire his next attack. Back in the dungeon, Levi calls Alec a madman after hearing about what his limit break does. It's incredibly dangerous, and Levi never would have thought that that was the trick behind the Academy's legendary 5-colored magician. Marbella, on the other hand, calls Alec a true genius, but Ornis explains that Alec's limit break is not all powerful. It's like firing off a dozen cannonballs at once, with Alec's body acting as the barrel. No matter what Alec does, he can only use the limit break for 10 minutes at most. Any longer than that will break him to the point of no return. Because of that, Ornis determines that he has to go help him, but Lork points out that he hasn't healed yet. Ornis tries to push himself anyway, but his body eventually fails. It's obvious that Ornis overexerted himself in battle, as Levi points out that Gloria isn't just some flunky from the Shadow Guild. He is a leader and a title bearer. Normally a brand new S-ranker would never be able to beat him, but Ornis managed to do it. Levi calls out the man known as the Casketer, and he arrives to do his job. This guy wonders if Gloria has any last prayers, and he explains that he's normally a priest. Gloria doesn't respond, so the guy says that even if Gloria did pray, God would do nothing for him. He uses his coffin's lament ability, and this makes the coffin he carries consume Gloria's body. Levi can't believe that the Blade Master is involved in all of this, because that guy is nothing but trouble. Levi says that Alec may be a genius, but he's really in for it this time. Marbell wonders how true that is, as she points out that she's a sword fighter, like Melia is. If she was in a big open space, with lots of fancy spells flying at her, she would be doomed. She thinks that Alec has the advantage in their fight, and Levi says that he would agree with her if it wasn't for the dungeon core. Dungeon cores look like normal cores, but they are not. Normal cores drop from the floor boss of each level, but there's always only one dungeon core on the lowest level. It's the literal heart of the dungeon, and it contains mysterious powers. Levi then explains that Melia was given a special promotion to S rank, even though he fights solo. He is like 4 people in one, and he's not just good with the sword, he can use magic too. If Melia has already gotten his hands on the dungeon core, then Alec's life will be in great danger. Back with our hero, Melia uses his Mana Blast attack, and Alec stops it with his Reflect spell. For the first time ever, Alec's Reflect spell is destroyed, and he must use several shields to keep himself from being cut in half. The attack is deflected away, and we see that Yora helped Alec boost his shields. Melia unleashes a flurry of attacks, so Yora is forced to use up all her mana, creating defensive walls to protect Alec. One attack reaches our hero, and he just barely manages to survive it. Melia has turned into a completely different person, and Alec can't figure out how to stop him. Jesta and Olivia regain some energy, and she tells the others about Melia's Mana Blast. It's a spell where Melia imbues his sword with mana to strike. It's his only attack spell, and it's incredibly simple, but that's what makes it so strong. Kreisha tells her that she needs to rest, but Olivia reveals that she has come up with a plan. Meanwhile, Alec begins to feel the negative effects of his limit break because it's already been 5 minutes. He doesn't have much time left, so he needs to do something right now. Things aren't looking good though, as Melia continues his barrage of attacks, and Alec is forced back. He knows that he can't just keep blocking, and he must at least do something about the dungeon core. Yora tries to use her chains to hold Melia down, but it's no use. Yora vows to use every bit of mana she has left to stop Melia, so she continues to try and trap him. It doesn't seem like she did much, but Alec thanks her for buying him some time. He uses his 5-colored release, but Melia once again demonstrates his immense skill by taking down one attack spell at a time. Alec tops it off with his sacrificial blaze, combined with some other spells, and this creates a giant wall of fire. The two fighters then release a couple of their most powerful attacks, and their collision nearly wipes out the entire dungeon floor. Alec feels immense pain as he pushes past his limits, and he realizes that he will be the one to go down first if he doesn't finish the fight. Just then, Kreisha tells Alec that they're planning to do what they did in the monster nest. Alec is confused at first, but he remembers what she's talking about. It was when Alec, Kreisha, and Olivia all worked together when they were on the dungeon floor that blocked the use of magic. Alec understands now, so he brings out his sword. Melia thinks that this is some kind of joke, and he wonders if Alec really thinks that his artifact can block his magic. Melia uses his Mana Blast again, but he is shocked when a magic circle appears beneath him. He sees that Kreisha was behind Alec, preparing a spell, and she calls it Magic Eater. This spell prohibits the use of magic, so from now on, Alec and Melia will be fighting with swords only. Their battle rages on, so Alec rushes in to make the first strike. The two fighters collide, but Alec is the one that collapses to the ground. He can only gasp for air after taking major damage, so Melia points out that their plan was really dumb. They may have managed to stop him from using his Mana Blast, but Melia points out that no one can beat him when it comes to a sword fight. This was such a waste of time, because Melia says that Alec at least had a small chance of beating him with magic. This silly plan that they came up with let that chance go to waste. Just then, Alec grabs something, and he shocks Melia by telling him that he has the wrong idea. Alec consumes a healing potion, and he says that he's put his days of trying to solve his problems alone behind him. Now Alec knows that he and his friends all fight as a team, and they all win as a team. The two continue their fight, but of course the Blade Master once again pushes Alec back. Alec can hardly breathe at this point, and Melia assumes that Alec only has about a minute left before his limit break reaches its end. Just then, Alec remembers what Olivia told him about sword fighting. She said that he shouldn't try to overpower his opponent, and he should treat his sword like it's part of his body. Alec rushes in to attack Melia again, but Melia just begins to cut him over and over again. Even when Alec manages to cut the Blade Master, he just brushes it off like it's nothing. Alec is then a bit surprised, as Melia says that he has changed his opinion of Alec. Alec is without a doubt a master magician, but now he's even entertaining Melia as a swordsman. Melia is really enjoying himself, and he never thought that Alec would prove to be such a challenge. Melia prepares to end the fight with his next attack, but Olivia comes out of nowhere to slice him across the chest. Melia was completely caught off guard, but he's still unfazed. He simply touches the giant gash Olivia just gave him, and he tells her that she never learns. Olivia is furious, as she demands to know why Melia took her in the first place, why he taught her how to fight, and why he then abandoned her. She assumes that it's because he wanted to make her hate him. That way he could end her life when she got stronger, also he could get stronger himself. Melia is glad to see that she understands, but Olivia declares that it doesn't make any sense. Melia didn't expect to hear that, and Olivia points out that he was so much stronger in the past compared to who he is now. When she saw Melia's sword as a child, it was sharper than anyone's. It was calm and beautiful, just like ice. Melia is completely different now, so Olivia demands to know the real reason why he betrayed her. Melia can only sigh, because Olivia lands one scratch on him, and she thinks that means that she can lecture him. Melia says that he will give her an honest answer to her question, but only if she can defeat him in battle. There's no other option, and she has no choice. Olivia wastes no time as she charges in, and the two sword fighters clash. Olivia's old wounds begin to bleed, and Kreisha points out that it's only natural because Olivia has exerted herself so much. Olivia, however, tells the others not to worry about her. Just like Kreisha did her job when healing her, Olivia says that this is what she must do as a sword fighter. She continues her fight against Melia, but this guy just overpowers her like he does to everyone. Olivia is really struggling, but Alec shocks her by helping her and telling her not to let go. He points out that Melia seems to know Eldis, so he wants Melia to give Eldis a message. Alec is as confident as ever, so he wants to tell Eldis that he's doing well enough to defeat the Blade Master. Melia is amused by Alec's assertion, so he's eager to see what Alec has in store for him. Alec thinks about how there are only 10 seconds left before he hits his limit. They have to finish this fight right now, so our heroes rush back into the fight while Melia counts down the seconds. Eventually they manage to push Melia back, but Alec is out of time as the countdown reaches 0. Alec's body collapses to the ground in exhaustion, and his limit break comes to an end. Melia says that it's been fun as he goes to end Alec's life, but Kreisha has something up her sleeve. Just then, the magic circle she cast earlier breaks apart, and everyone gets ready. A look back to just moments ago reveals what their plan was. They were going to use Magic Eater to stop Melia's Mana Blast, and Olivia said that she would rush in when she found an opening. The others were concerned because Alec wouldn't be able to use magic either, but there was more to Olivia's plan. What they would really be going for is the moment when Kreisha's Magic Eater shuts off. This is when even Melia would be flat-footed for a single moment. Olivia knew that they wouldn't have much time, so they would need a perfectly timed magic circle. Back to the present, Kreisha goes through with the plan. She laments how Olivia keeps asking for the impossible, and she says that that is a problem with sword fighters. With Melia caught off guard, Alec uses a lightning spell at close range. Melia goes to strike him down, but Yora cleverly uses a shield to stop his blade mid-attack. Her shield keeps Melia's sword behind him, so he's completely vulnerable. Alec takes advantage of this, so he uses every bit of power he has left to unleash his Ascend spell. Melia screams in agony for a moment, but he still says that Alec's magic is too weak. He gets ready to counter with his Mana Blast, but this time Olivia is there to stop him. This buys Alec just enough time to finish his attack, and it creates a giant explosion. Everyone wonders if it's over, but Melia isn't finished. He rises from the smoke to fire off another attack, but an arrow comes out of nowhere to strike him through the chest. Melia collapses to the ground as he can no longer fight, and he can't believe what just happened. He realizes now that Alec's limit break, the Magic Eater, and even Olivia were all distractions. In the end, the real threat was Kreisha. Kreisha warns Melia not to move because at this range she won't miss. The defeated Melia already knows this, so he offers to give our heroes the dungeon core. He says that it's the reward for the victor of their battle, and Yora remembers what he said about Eden. Eden is the entire reason that the Shadow Guild is after her, and it's what can be found when the cores are gathered. It's a land where the wishes of man are granted, and the Shadow Guild seems to think that Yora will be able to see it when the time comes. Melia confirms this once more, and he says that the cores do more than just amplify magic. He reveals that dungeon cores have a will of their own, but only a select few can hear their voice. These select few are the chosen ones, otherwise known as Seekers. By gathering the dungeon cores that contain Adam's will, anyone can find the path to Eden. Olivia refuses to believe that all this was just to find Eden, but Melia says that he isn't lying. Just then, Alec tells Melia not to run because he promised to give them answers if they won the fight. Olivia came here to settle things, so Melia has no choice but to answer her questions. Alec is in really bad shape, but Melia agrees to do as he says. He starts by asking if they know about something called Dungeon Syndrome. It's a disease where the dungeon's power turns people into monsters. It's difficult to heal completely, but there are ways to suppress it. Melia starts telling them a story from his past that was so long ago that he can't even remember how many years it's been. He was in a party, and they were all young and inexperienced. They were also full of life, especially Olivia's mother. They always had intense dungeon battles, and Olivia's mother was very competitive. As sword fighters, they live and die by the dungeon, but she was very different. She was cheerful, and her personality was nothing like Melia's. They had many differences, but they still thought the same way. The two of them grew very close, but one day something terrible happened. Olivia's mother fell victim to Dungeon Syndrome, and she turned into a monster. She asked for Melia to end her life, so he made it quick and painless. He was very young at the time, but he still felt responsible for what happened to her. That is why he left the party and took in Olivia. He decided to teach Olivia how to fight because she had her mother's talent. Now that he thinks about it though, the real reason he taught her how to fight was because he didn't have anything else to teach. A look into the past shows how close the two were as Olivia grew up. She was proud after growing her hair as long as Melia's, and she wondered why he never cut his. It always got in the way during battle, but Melia never cut it because he didn't want to forget the past. This was when Olivia nearly called Melia her father, but she ran off out of embarrassment. The way she talked terrified him because she didn't know the truth. Olivia admired him with the eyes and face of her mother, the woman that he killed. Olivia's fighting style, her habits, and even her clothes were all like Melia's. He could never understand why she wanted to copy him so much. The more Olivia looked up to him, the more doubt he began to feel. He began to question if Olivia's mother really asked him to end her life that day. Melia started to wonder if he misunderstood what she wanted in that final moment. She could have been asking to return home to Olivia, no matter what she looked like. The thought of being wrong was too much to bear, and that is when he learned about Eden, the land where any wish can be granted. It was where a person can even change their entire past. Melia's plan was to start over, so he abandoned everything. Everyone is shocked because it sounds like Melia was doing all this to bring Olivia's mother back to life. Melia, however, says that in the end, it was all for himself. He abandoned Olivia for his own sake, and he was finally able to move on. He was despised and pursued, and now his life will come to an end. Melia says that it's a fitting end for him, so he tells Olivia to end his life now. She can finally avenge her mother and settle things with her past. He encourages her to take back everything he took from her, but they are interrupted by Olivia's party. Her comrades break up the tension as Marbelle rushes to hug Olivia. She sobs uncontrollably because she never thought that she would see Olivia again, so Olivia comforts her. As for Melia, Olivia declares that she has no interest in tormenting the defeated. Instead, he will simply have to come with her so he can be judged on the surface. Melia is sure that she will regret this because the wounds of the past will eat at her and eventually destroy her. Olivia, however, informs him that she has learned how to face her wounds. Even if she can't heal them, she is confident that she can live with them. This shocks Melia, and he thinks about how he told her that loneliness makes a person stronger. By knowing loneliness, she would become stronger than anyone. Melia acknowledges that Olivia has become much stronger, so she begins to cry. They have a very complicated past, so Olivia can only say goodbye to the man that she thought of as her father. A while later, Levi arrives, and he tells Melia that he heard all the nasty stories about him. These two are old friends, and Melia says that he thought Levi retired from the front lines. Levi declares that they won't let him retire, and he says that it's because Melia teamed up with the Shadow Guild. He tells Melia that if he wants to destroy himself, then he will have to do it on his own watch, because Levi won't let him drag Olivia into his mess. Melia declares that he has nothing left to say, so he just tells the guildmaster to do his job. Levi's done listening as well, so he tells the casketer to get to work. The casketer wonders if Melia is finished saying his prayers, but Melia says that there's no need. He does have one thing to say, however, and it's that Eldis's apprentice did well in the fight. Alec is also the son of Arya, so Melia can only wonder what he will do when he learns the truth of how his mother died. With all that said, it's time to go, so the casketer uses his coffin's lament ability. This locks Melia inside of the coffin, and our heroes can finally relax. Levi says that he must get back to the guild, but he reminds Olivia that she has a lot of apologies to make. Marbell says that it sucks to be Olivia, but she's a little too rough with her, and Olivia passes out. Marbell fears that she might have just ended Olivia's life, so she begs Kracia to heal her. Alec is in really bad shape as well, so he also passes out. Kracia gets to work healing, but she hates how everyone's always bossing her around. Olivia can feel the anger mixed in with the healing, and Kracia's glad that she noticed. Olivia apologizes for being such a burden, and Kracia can't believe that she nearly lost her life 3 times in one day. She says that Olivia is even more reckless than her party's resident moron, but Olivia partly blames her. Ornis is only able to fight the way he does because he knows that Kracia will be there to heal him if he ever gets hurt. The same goes for everyone in her party because Kracia's healing ability makes them feel safe. Kracia is flattered, but she also doesn't like being blamed for everyone getting hurt. After messing around for a while, Olivia says that she's surprised that Lorg isn't mad at her. Her selfishness put their party in danger, so she thought that he would be furious. Lorg isn't mad at all though, because he formed this party with people like Olivia, simply because he wanted to. They don't share common ambitions, motivations, and goals that normal parties do. However, when Lorg saw Olivia collapsed and covered in blood, he got seriously mad for the first time in a while. Luckily, she made it out alive, and Lorg gives a lot of the credit to Alec. The two of them shake hands, but Marble says that she isn't happy. She wanted to see Alec's limit break, but Yora points out that it's too dangerous for him to ever use again. Everyone shares a nice moment, and they declare that their mission to clear the lowest floor of the dungeon is finally complete. Their reward is the dungeon core, so Kracia wonders how they should split it up. Ornis thinks that it belongs to their party, but Yora doesn't. She thinks that Lorg should have it because his party has spent years working on clearing this dungeon. Besides that, Melia was the one that defeated the boss on floor 72. Lorg accepts the reward, but he points out that Alec and his friends were the ones that defeated Melia. They deserve the core just as much, and Lorg points out that if they want to be the strongest, then they're going to need a core. Lorg gives it to Yora, but it does something strange. It shines in Yora's hands, and she faints for some reason. Yora has a vision of someone calling her a seeker and asking her if she wants to make a wish. If the answer is yes, then she will have to enter Eden and eat the golden fruit. To find Eden, Yora will have to follow the steps and gather the cores. This voice doesn't explain anything else, and it just says that it awaits the coming of the heroes. When Yora wakes up, she finds that Alec is recovering next to her. It makes sense because Alec used his limit break, and she wonders why he always has to overdo things. Yora goes to kiss him, but she's interrupted by Ornis. Ornis points out that it was really hard to drag them both here while they were unconscious, and Kracia agrees with him. Yora is shocked because Kracia was in the room the entire time, and her scream wakes Alec up. Yora tells everyone about the dream she had, and it confirms that what Melia said about Eden is true. The core seems to be what made Yora pass out, so she wants to see it again. Kracia wonders if that's really a good idea, but Yora says that she needs to know for sure if it's causing her harm. Yora holds the core again, but this time nothing happens. Last time, the core started to glow, and she heard a voice, but that's gone now. Alex says that if what Melia said was true, then the Shadow Guild will keep coming after the cores and the Seeker. Yora is apparently the Seeker, so she's in great danger. Just then, Yora shocks our hero as she declares that she wants to gather the cores. The Shadow Guild seems to know something about her that she doesn't even know. There's a lot of stuff going on inside her head that she doesn't understand, so she wants answers. She doesn't just want to sit around and wait, so Ornis says that he's with her. Alec isn't sure about this, but Ornis is eager to defeat the Shadow Guild and find the cores. He doesn't understand the situation completely, but he says that he will even beat up this Adam person if he has to. Kracia says that Ornis wants to solve their problems with violence again, but Yora sees it differently. If they're going to find Eden, then they need to start thinking about what their wish will be. Alec apologizes for spoiling their fun, but he has bad news. Our hero then shocks everyone as he reveals that he can't use magic anymore. It's the repercussions he must face for using Limit Break. He overdid it pretty hard, and deep down Alec knew that there was a chance this would happen. Yora thinks it's temporary, but there's no way to know for sure. Alec has asked Olivia to help him train, but she wonders why he didn't just ask Ornist. Alec explains that he needs as much experience as he can get, so he wants to fight lots of different kinds of fighters. Olivia can tell that it's because he's going to fight the Shadow Guild. Alec points out that they're after the cores, but more importantly, they're targeting Yora. They can attack from anywhere at any time, so he needs to be ready. Just then, Olivia wonders if Yora has any siblings, because she remembered something after they left the dungeon. Yora reveals that she doesn't really know, and no one can understand why. She explains that she might have siblings, but her family situation is a little complicated. Olivia then reveals that she kept hearing a name when she was hunting down the Shadow Guild. The name that kept popping up was Gurren, and Olivia is sure that this guy had something to do with Yora's kidnapping. She says that if they're really serious about finding the Shadow Guild, then they will have to follow that lead. Olivia warns that their journey will be very dangerous, but Alec tells her not to worry. He knows that he doesn't have much experience fighting other humans, but he promises to get stronger. He declares that he will have to become the strongest because he wants nothing more than to protect Yora. At the guild, Alec tells the receptionist that he wants to practice fighting people. She says that she has the perfect event for him, so Alec heads to the south. His destination is a Flame Night festival that is held every 3 years. The main event is a big nationwide martial arts tournament, so it's known as the Battle Festival. Adventurers and mercenaries enter, alongside knights making names for themselves. Furthermore, the receptionist told them that she got some juicy information from a secret source. Apparently, the prize for this year's tournament is a dungeon core. Eventually, our heroes arrive in Rogue City, and Alec can only wonder what's waiting for them. A look into the past shows when our heroes first met. They just managed to survive a dungeon together, so Ornis said that they should form a party. He wanted to see how far they could go together, and Alec was intrigued. Even Kracia agreed, but only if Yora became their leader. Ornis thought that he should be the leader, so he turned to Alec to back him up, but it was no use. Alec also thought it should be Yora because she was able to keep a cool head and make the right calls in the dungeon. He said that she was the right person for the job, so Yora proudly accepted the role. Ornis eventually gave in, but only if he got to pick the name of their party. He told everyone to listen closely, and he declared that they would be the lasting period. Alec said he liked it, and Yora interpreted it to mean that the four of them would stick together forever. The decision to party up was settled, and they all toasted to their new journey. Back to the present, Alec tells the others that it's time for them to test their skills in the tournament. Their goal is to win the dungeon core, and Ornis declares that he will be the final winner. Alec declares that it's time to go, so they all prepare to show the world what they're capable of. Thanks for watching my recap of the first season of this anime. Make sure to like the video.